Chapter 6:23. You're starting to lose control of the power of the sacred netherworld body. Hearing the mysterious person reveal the limits of Luo Mengchang's bloodline, Chu Hen no longer had any doubts in his heart. The other party was indeed the mysterious person who had sent Luo Mengchang to the Luo family back then. Only that person would truly understand her. However, what caught Chu Hen's attention was the other party's words, "just now." If it wasn't for the fact that her life was in danger, I wouldn't have appeared so early. Did you just say that Luo Mengchang's life is in danger? Chu Hen stared at the other party. The mysterious person raised her head slightly. Her voice was still indifferent, but her tone was obviously more cautious. The purity of your bloodline is higher than I expected. You should be able to feel it yourself. The power of the sacred netherworld body is getting more and more out of control. I need to teach you how to use and control the power of the sacred body. Luo Mengchang hesitated on the spot, not knowing how to answer. Chu Hen could not help but think of the scene he saw in Luo Mengchang's room today. Compared to the past, the power in Luo Mengchang's body was indeed getting more and more restless. Especially the red crescent moon spirit tattoo that appeared between her eyebrows, it had an even more unsettling aura. Intuition told Chu Hen that what the mysterious person said was most likely true. Moreover, from the various signs that the other party had shown, she did not have any ill intentions towards Luo Mengchang. Moreover, with the other party's unfathomable cultivation, even if she forcefully took Luo Mengchang away, Chu Hen would not be able to stop her. Of course, Chu Hen was naturally most concerned about Luo Mengchang's safety. If it really involved the power of her bloodline and her life was in danger, even if Chu Hen was extremely reluctant, he would not be stupid enough to keep her by his side. Do you still have any questions? The mysterious person said calmly. If not, then leave. But Luo Mengchang's jade-like hands clenched into fists as she glanced at Chu Hen with reluctance and said, "Can't you stay here and help me?" Ever since the battle in Moonbound City, Luo Mengchang had made up her mind to stay by Chu Hen's side in the future. The two of them were like a knot that could not be untied, and they were also a calamity that could not be resolved in each other's hearts. Although the two of them had not been separated for nearly half a year, the truth was that they did not spend much time alone together because of all the things that had happened. Luo Mengchang did not want to be separated from Chu Hen so soon. The Holy Abyss body is different from ordinary bloodlines. Other than teaching you how to control this power yourself, I also need to borrow external forces to help you evolve your bloodline, the mysterious person replied. She glanced at Chu Hen and continued, "You've already wasted 20 years of time. The next few years will be very important to you. I can make you even stronger. Become stronger." When she heard this, Luo Mengchang's heart was moved. However, the reason why she was moved was not because of herself, but because of Chu Hen. If she could perfectly activate and control the power of the Holy Abyss body, when she encountered danger in the future, she would not have to watch Chu Hen fight alone in fear. Just like the battle with the Sacred Star Dynasty's imperial ancestor, if Luo Mengchang could reach the same level as Chu Hen, that battle would not have been so difficult. Luo Mengchang hesitated. She did not know how to choose. Go. At this moment, Chu Hen gently patted her shoulder, his eyes filled with a faint gentleness. No matter what, the power of the Holy Abyss body might threaten Luo Mengchang's life, so Chu Hen had to let her go. Moreover, the current situation in Mount Kunliu was very complicated. The Flying Immortal Palace was the weaker party, so it was hard for Chu Hen to guarantee what kind of unforeseen event they would encounter. The Blue Rand sword was tied to him, so he definitely could not leave. In this case, letting Luo Mengchang leave with this person was the best choice. Luo Mengchang gently bit her red lips, her beautiful eyes filled with traces of tears. She stared at Chu Hen's eyes affectionately. "But I don't want to leave you." Chu Hen smiled and gently scratched the other party's delicate nose. "What are you afraid of? It's not like we will never see each other again. We will definitely meet again in the future. Maybe by then, your cultivation will far surpass mine. I am still worried that you will not like me. Of course not. Luo Mengchang did not know whether to laugh or cry. Chu Hen gently smiled, then turned to the mysterious person and said, Senior, I will leave Mengchang in your hands. Since the relationship between the mysterious person and Luo Mengchang was not ordinary, there was no need to say anything else. I understand. The mysterious person replied softly, then continued, You are really considerate of her. This thing is for you to use. In a critical moment of danger, it can protect you 3 times. Whoosh! The person casually waved his hand, and a white light flew towards Chu Hen. Chu Hen raised his eyelids and reached out to grab the white light. This is? The object was warm in the hand, but it was an exquisite white jade. The white jade was engraved with ancient runes and numbers, which were as complicated as tree vines. A strange, obscure fluctuation was emitted from it. In times of danger, inject true essence into it and it will help you get out of danger. Remember, you can only use it 3 times, the mysterious person said. Chu Hen's eyes lit up. He cupped his fists and said gratefully, Thank you, Senior, for the reward. I am very grateful. Chu Hen was not a pedantic person. He knew when to be polite and when to stop. The mysterious person clearly wanted to help him get through the difficult situation he was facing. There was no reason for Chu Hen to refuse. After all, only by living well could he reunite with Luo Mengchang in the future. In that case, we can go now, the mysterious person said to Luo Mengchang. In life, the most difficult thing was to be separated by death. When you are used to having another person to accompany you, suddenly you are the only one left. That kind of sadness was very touching. Chu Hen tried to make himself look relaxed. He put his arm around Luo Mengchang's shoulder and kissed her forehead gently and affectionately. Go. Wife, don't run away with other men. Otherwise, I won't have a place to cry. Listening to the other party's joke, Luo Mengchang could not laugh. She caressed Chu Hen's face with her white hand and said softly, Take care of yourself. Take care of yourself, I'll be back soon. Okay. Chu Hen nodded and smiled. Soon after, under Chu Hen's gaze, Luo Mengchang gradually walked further and further away from the mysterious person, slowly disappearing into the night. Many reluctance surged in Chu Hen's heart like a tide. Fortunately, Luo Mengchang did not know the chaotic situation that Chu Hen was about to face. Otherwise, she would not have left. Looking at the beautiful figure that gradually disappeared, Chu Hen felt like he was in the crowd, sending his lover on a journey far away. He murmured to himself softly, This is the last time. We will never be separated again. After the deep sadness of parting, Chu Hen could not help but think of his own life. It seemed that his fate was surprisingly similar to Luo Mengchang's. She was the adopted daughter of the Luo family, while he was the adopted son of the Long family. She had the bloodline limit of the holy body of the abyss, while he had the holy body of the demon pupil. How could this be? Chu Hen was terrified as he thought about it. A middle-aged man with a gentle temperament suddenly appeared in his mind. Li Wushang, a mysterious man who had the same demon pupil as him. Combining all these factors together, Chu Hen couldn't help but wonder if his encounter with Li Wushang in Flaming Rain City was just a coincidence, or if it was predetermined by fate. Perhaps that mysterious man was the only person who knew about his own life? But where was Li Wushang now? The last time Chu Hen saw him was when he escaped from the capital and arrived at the Hidden Wind region. At that time, he only asked him to collect 7 star soul pearls and said that it was necessary. As for other things, he did not mention them. Li Wushang also clearly said that from then on, he would not interfere in any of Chu Hen's matters. No matter what difficulties Chu Hen encountered, he would solve it himself. Previously, there was nothing wrong with these words. Now that he thought about it carefully, the meaning of Li Wushang's words seemed to be reminding Chu Hen not to rely on anyone in the world. Was Li Wushang really related to him? The more Chu Hen thought about it, the more confused and excited he became. Indeed, how could a small sacred star dynasty have two people with the bloodline of the demon pupil? Now, Chu Hen only wanted to find Li Wushang and ask him. But where exactly was the other party? Chu Hen could not think of it at all. After all, the two of them had only met twice. After a long time, Chu Hen's emotions gradually calmed down. His chaotic heart calmed down. There were only two possible outcomes. First, he and Li Wushang really did have a relationship. Then, one day in the future, he would naturally appear in front of him. Second, his encounter with Li Wushang was just a coincidence. Then there was no need to be conflicted. Even if he found him, he would not get any result. However, Chu Hen firmly believed that as long as he was strong enough, there would be no secrets in this world. Whether it was the mysterious person who took Luo Mengshang or Li Wushang who had the demon pupil sacred body, the reason why they were mysterious was because their cultivation was so strong that he could only look up to them. No strong person would explain too much to a weak person. In an instant, Chu Hen's eyes bloomed with determination again. In the horizon, the first rays of dawn broke, and the morning glow began to dye the sky. Chapter 6:24. What? Miss Mengshang left? What happened? Did the two of you quarrel? In the morning, in the guest house of the West Wing, Qi Ting and Lu Qi looked at Chu Hen in surprise. Hua Shui, Ji Shu, and the others who just came from outside were also confused. Why did Luo Mengshang leave just like that? When they came yesterday, she and Chu Hen were still fine. You guys are thinking too much. Why would we quarrel? Chu Hen looked at everyone speechlessly. Then why did she leave? She didn't even say goodbye, Lu Qi asked. Yes. Chu Hen lightly sniffed his nose. Indeed, it's quite urgent. She told me to say goodbye to you guys and wait for a few days before returning. Their expressions were especially strange. They thought to themselves, what's wrong with Chu Hen? Could it be that he let Luo Mengshang leave on purpose because of Mount Kunliu? On second thought, they felt that it was unlikely. With Luo Mengshang's personality, why would she leave Chu Hen alone? Chu Hen did not want to be entangled in this matter. He asked Hua Shui, is there a place to cultivate Reiki energy in Mount Kunliu? I want to strengthen the power of the street tree. Hua Shui was stunned at first, then nodded blankly. Yes, there is a Dao Heart platform at Summer Peak. It specializes in cultivating Reiki energy. I will bring you there. Okay. Let's go. Immediately, Chu Hen followed Hua Shui and Ji Shu to Summer Peak. Qi Ting and Lu Qi looked at each other and followed him, full of doubt. The few of them walked in the air and looked down at the steep peaks of Mount Kunliu. The beautiful scenery of the mountains and rivers was like a fairyland on earth, and the abundant immortal qi from the mountain streams blew against one's face, making one feel relaxed and happy. Along the way, Hua Shui and Ji Shu looked like they had something on their minds and did not say a word. Qi Ting and Lu Qi were also deep in thought and did not say a word. On the other hand, Chu Hen acted as if nothing had happened, enjoying the beautiful scenery along the way. By the way, why didn't Fuqin and Shuaiqi come? Chu Hen asked casually. Oh, they went to the Flying Immortal Hall. They might come back later. Hua Shui answered absent-mindedly. Usually, she was the most lively and talkative one, but today she was not her usual self. It was the same for Ji Shu. Her slightly furrowed brows seemed to contain a melancholy that could not be dispelled. Needless to say, they were all worried about the same thing, and that was Chu Hen. To be honest, even they did not expect the situation at Mount Kunliu to become so complicated. In the end, his thinking was still too simple. He thought that as long as he brought Chu Hen back, he would be able to take over the position of sect master. Who would have thought that things would not be as simple as they had imagined? Because of Xiao Muyu's advance warning, Chu Hen was well aware of it, but he didn't say it out loud. If he did, it would only make Hua Shui and the others feel more guilty. It was still the same saying. Since things were already here, he should take things as they came. Things had not reached a situation where they were out of control. Chu Hen was not a person who would be trampled on by others. Instead of being afraid, it was better to use this opportunity to increase his cultivation. Qixia Peak is right in front. Huashue pointed to a steep peak in front of them and said, "Oh!" Chu Hen's eyes lit up. That Qixia Peak wasn't especially majestic. Its horizontal width was approximately 3,000 meters or so, and it was located in the middle of all the peak. It was surrounded by deep cliffs and ravines, and a few suspension bridges were connected to the surrounding mountain ranges. It was like a rainbow that traversed the heavens. On top of Qixia Peak, there was a vast octagonal stone platform. The distribution of the stone platform seemed to exude a simple and dignified aura. In the middle of the stone platform, there was a towering tree that was more than 200 meters tall. This towering tree had luxuriant branches and a sturdy trunk. It was like a huge, ancient pine tree that was tens of thousands of years old. Dense heaven and earth spiritual qi lingered around the huge tree. It was as light as a thin mist and flowed for a long time. Looking from afar, the branches of the huge tree were covered with mysterious and complicated runes. The lush and beautiful leaves swayed gently, swaying continuously with Reiki energy. What a magnificent street tree! Chu Hen's eyes lit up. It's not a street tree. Hua Shui's small eyes looked at Chu Hen with a little disdain. This is a 1,000-year heaven talisman tree. You don't even know this. I really don't know if the person who taught you the art of runes died early or something. Chu Hen was stunned. Although this girl looked cute, she was really vicious when she scolded people. Did she really think that he didn't know that it was a 1,000-year heaven talisman tree? The reason why he said that was purely to lighten the atmosphere. This 1,000-year heaven talisman tree is a natural treasure. Even in the entire victorious eastern state, there are less than 10 of them. This heaven talisman tree can gather the energy of the heavenly sun in the day and the essence of the mystic moon at night. If you cultivate the art of runes under this tree, you will get twice the result with half the effort. Jishu explained to Chu Hen in a soft voice. Chu Hen nodded and pretended to be surprised. I see. After that, the few of them landed on the octagonal spirit convergence platform. Standing in front of the 1,000-year heaven talisman tree at such a close distance, they felt that it was incomparably magnificent. The huge tree crown covered the sky and covered a large area of shade. Moreover, under the illumination of the sun, every single branch and leaf appeared to be verdant and glistening. At the center of the spirit convergence platform, below the heaven talisman tree, there were rows of praying mats. Many young men and women were sitting on the praying mats, their hands creating a strange rhythm in the air. Dazzling and beautiful runes surrounded their fingertips like dancing butterflies. Obviously, these people were all rune masters. Just sit on it, Jishu said. Okay. Chu Hen nodded his head. Then, like the wind, he walked forward. At the same time, Chu Hen's arrival attracted the gazes of quite a few people in the surroundings. Everyone looked at Chu Hen with strange gazes. It seems that he has not figured out the situation at Mount Kunliu. A low voice sounded. If I were him, I wouldn't have stayed until today. There's no point in leaving. The blue Ran sword is still with him. Alright, that's enough. Anyway, he won't stay long at Mount Kunliu. It seemed that everyone at Mount Kunliu knew that Chu Hen would not be able to take the position of sect master. No one saw him as the future sect master. On the contrary, many people shook their heads and worried about Chu Hen's future. However, Chu Hen did not care about the strange gazes from the surrounding people at all. He calmly walked to the side of an empty praying mat and sat down cross-legged. Buzz buzz, soon, a strange energy wave swept over. A strand of golden light, faintly like a veil, flowed down from the tip of the 1,000-year-old heavenly talisman tree, enveloping Chu Hen within like a spiritual spring. In the next moment, Chu Hen felt the Reiki energy in his Naiwan palace become extremely active. Phew! Lightly letting out a breath, Chu Hen's mind moved. He separated out a strand of spiritual energy and extended it to the tip of his fingers. Then, one after another, bright and beautiful runes were released like flames. Huh! Chu Hen was slightly surprised. He realized that the difficulty of condensing a rune here was much greater than usual. However, the amount of Reiki energy consumed was reduced by half. In other words, if Chu Hen wanted to condense 100 runes, he would only need about 5 seconds. If it was now, he would need about 20 seconds. Obviously, the difficulty had increased by 3 to 4 times. This was indeed good for practicing the control and application of runes. After all, when one got used to difficult things, it would be very easy to do simple things. Condensing runes was much more difficult than usual. However, the consumption of Reiki energy was less, which enabled one to stay here for a longer time. It had to be said that practicing here could indeed save a lot of time. Seeing Chu Hen practicing runes as if nothing had happened, Huaxue and the other girls were a little confused. Did he really not know, or was he pretending? Huaxue and Jishu were a little confused. Don't worry about it, you two. Qi Ting came over and said, in fact, Chu Hen has already known about those things. Sure enough, Huaxue and Jishu felt guilty. It's all our fault. Believe him. When did you see him accept his fate? Maybe he has already come up with a countermeasure. Hearing Qi Ting's words, the two girls were a little less worried. We are not spiritual tattooists, so we won't stay here. Both Qi Ting and Lu Qi knew Chu Hen well. They knew that Chu Hen would not be bullied by others. Seeing that he was so calm from beginning to end, they were not particularly worried. Rather than blindly following the other party around, it was better to cultivate elsewhere. Well, there is the Sky Martial Arts stage 5 kilometers southeast, and the Martial Arts Steel 8 kilometers northwest. You can go there and have a look. Jishu reminded them. Okay, we got it. Then, Qi Ting and Lu Qi left one after another. Jishu and Huaxue didn't know what to do, so they just followed Chu Hen and practiced runes under the heavenly rune tree. As time went on, more and more tattooists of the Kunlia school came to the soul collection stage. Chu Hen didn't pay attention to what was happening around him. Both of his hands were constantly deducing strange and complicated rune numbers. The runes that flickered with a mysterious luster were linked together. One after another, exquisite rune techniques took shape on his fingertip. Gradually, Chu Hen's speed became faster and faster, almost reaching the level of forgetfulness. With him as the center, the air started to move rhythmically. Under his skillful technique, the runes were constantly flashing light patterns of various attribute. Waves of air rose and stacked, and the surrounding air flow became much more rapid. Ho! However, at this moment, a thunderous roar suddenly rang out from the Spirit Convergence platform without any warning. The sudden shout was like a thunderbolt, which caught everyone off guard. Their hearts trembled, and the runes in their hands burst into endless light and shadow. Who is so rude? Isn't it too harmful? It must be on purpose. The tattooists were furious. However, compared with others, Chu Hen was the one who suffered the most impact. His ears were buzzing and his qi and blood surged. His face suddenly turned pale, and a stream of blood flowed down the corner of his mouth. If one's practice was forcibly interrupted without the slightest precaution, it was serious enough to kill him. Obviously, the opponent was targeting Chu Hen. Chapter 625. A thunderous roar suddenly swept over without any warning, directly interrupting the cultivation of the rune masters below the 1,000-year heavenly talisman tree. Many people were knocked to the ground by this explosive roar, and the runes on their fingertips completely shattered into surging chaotic waves of air. Everyone was infuriated and started cursing. What the hell? Who is so rude? Are they trying to kill someone? It must be on purpose. Damn it, I'm going to report this to the disciplinary elder. My soul is about to disappear from my body. However, in the next second, the curses in the entire Dao Heart platform came to an abrupt halt. The people who were furious just a moment ago all shut their mouths, and the expressions on their faces underwent a huge change, from anger to fear and reverence. Under everyone's angry but silent gazes, 7 or 8 young figures with arrogant auras walked over. The person in the lead was more than 2 meters tall. His body was as sturdy as a bear or tiger. His entire body was covered with sturdy muscles, emitting a mountain-like aura. Behind him, there was another person. It was Xen Hui, who had previously insulted Qi Ting and was forced to kneel on the ground by Chu Hen's aura. "It's Bai Lian." Ji Shu was startled and said in surprise. Hua Xue's expression also changed slightly. No wonder everyone did not dare to speak. This Bai Lian was ranked 3rd in the younger generation of the Demon Slayer Hall. This person was born with divine strength and was extremely powerful. In the entire Mount Kunliu, other than a few people, no one dared to provoke him. "Chu Hen? What happened to you?" Hua Xue was surprised to see Chu Hen with a pale face and blood at the corner of his mouth. Ji Shu was also shocked. Chu Hen was actually injured, and his injuries were not light. Could it be? Ji Shu looked at Bai Lian and the rest, then looked at the surrounding people. Even though everyone's cultivation was interrupted by that roar, they did not suffer any injuries. In other words, there was only one person they were targeting. "Bai Lian, what are you trying to do? Don't you know that doing this can easily lead to death?" Hua Xue angrily jumped up and argued with everyone. The people from the Demon Slayer Palace stopped about 5 meters away. Bai Lian's lips curled into a frivolous sneer. "Is that so? Is there anyone dead?" "You. I'm going to tell the enforcement elder. If everyone was like you, who would dare to cultivate here?" "Go ahead." Bai Lian had a fearless look on his face. He raised his hand slightly and made a please gesture. It was obvious that the other party wasn't afraid of the disciplinary elder's punishment. Otherwise, he wouldn't have come here with such great fanfare. However, at this moment Chu Hen, who had not said a single word, slowly stood up. He randomly wiped off the fresh blood on the corner of his mouth. His face was quietly covered by a layer of frost. Ji Shu and Hua Xue's expressions changed slightly. They knew that Chu Hen was angry. Hua Xue hurriedly tugged at Chu Hen's clothes, signaling him not to fight Bai Lian recklessly. However, Chu Hen acted as if he didn't hear it. His posture was straight like a javelin, and a cold aura spread out. "What's the matter?" The 2 cold words sounded like a sharp sword, full of interrogative tone. Bai Lian shrugged and playfully smiled. "Hand over the blue ran sword, then you can scram. Straightforward." Without the slightest bit of concealment, Bai Lian directly stated his intentions. In the entire Mount Kunliu, there weren't many people who could be so arrogant, but Bai Lian was definitely one of them. He was ranked 3rd in the Demon Slayer Palace, and could be ranked top 10 in the entire Kunliu sect's younger generation. The other party had enough capital to not put Chu Hen in his eyes. "Heh, you want to be the sect master? Dream on." Xen Hui, who stood behind Bai Lian, cursed. The test of Mount Kunliu came so quickly. It wasn't even 2 days. This was something that Ji Shu and Hua Xue didn't expect. The Flying Immortal Palace Master might be able to restrain the Demon Slayer Palace Master and the Void Palace Master for a short period of time, but he always turned a blind eye to the competition between his disciples. After all, it was inevitable for young people to have conflicts. Since Bai Lian dared to brazenly come to Chu Hen to ask for the blue ran sword, he wasn't worried about the consequences he would have to bear. "Hand over the blue ran sword and you can scram." He didn't give any face at all. The competition between sects was this cruel. Facing the powerful pressure released by Bai Lian, Chu Hen stood still, unmoving like a mountain, firm like a rock. He said coldly, "What if I don't give it to you?" "That's simple. I'll beat you until you give it to me," Bai Lian said with contempt. After he finished speaking, A vigorous and fierce qi gushed out from Bai Lian's body, and an extremely powerful pressure crushed over like a torrent. The airflow between heaven and earth became abnormally chaotic. The surrounding people's expressions all changed, and they hurriedly retreated to avoid being caught in the crossfire. The peak of the 9th level of the void-piercing realm. The aura released by Bai Lian was actually much stronger than that of the Sacred Star Dynasty's imperial ancestor. The other party was most likely already half a foot into the earth-profound realm. Hua Shui and Ji Shu became more and more uneasy. They wanted to bring Chu Hen away, but the coldness emitted from his body made them not dare to approach him. Still putting on an act. The group of people from the Demon Slayer Palace wanted to see panic and begging for mercy on Chu Hen's face, but from start to finish, he appeared to be abnormally calm. Bai Lian crossed his arms in front of him, and looked at the slightly thin figure with contempt. I'll give you 2 choices. Hand over the blue Ran sword yourself, or I'll go and get it myself. But if I do that, it's hard to guarantee that you won't break 2 arms or a leg. The surrounding people couldn't help but look at Chu Hen with sympathy. Of course, from their point of view, Chu Hen only had himself to blame. He wanted to be the sect master, but he didn't expect that the disciples of the sect didn't even put him in their eyes. However, Chu Hen smiled, and his smile was especially sarcastic. He coldly looked at Bai Lian and the others in front of him, and his voice was clear and powerful. I don't mean to target anyone. I just want to say that all of you here are trash. The 2 ice-cold words caused the surrounding people to be completely shocked. The faces of Bai Lian and the others instantly darkened. Without waiting for them to speak, Chu Hen directly extended his right index finger, and with an incomparably provocative posture, he launched a counterattack. I'm in a hurry, all of you come at me together. Hua. The entire Spirit Convergence Tao Heart platform instantly burst into an uproar. They originally thought that Bai Lian was already arrogant enough, but who would have thought that Chu Hen was even more arrogant? You're courting death. Xian Hui angrily roared, and he was the first to explode with a powerful aura and charge at Chu Hen. Yesterday, he had lost face in the hands of Chu Hen, and today, while Bai Lian was here, he must get back at him. Apart from Bai Lian, the others also closely followed Xian Hui, one after another releasing vast and vigorous true inner energy. Stinking brat, today I will teach you how to be a person. Xian Hui flipped his palm outwards, and the powerful true inner energy first bloomed like fireworks, then quickly converged and gathered together, like spiritual vines intertwining with each other, and in an instant turned into a sharp sword that was as sharp as a rainbow. Hiss! Accompanied by the sound of the air being torn apart, the sharp sword shadow directly stabbed at Chu Hen's heart. The speed of the sword was like a thunderclap. Chu Hen, be careful. Seeing that Chu Hen was still standing in the same place, Ji Shu could not help but exclaim a warning. However, just as the sword attack in Xian Hui's palm was less than 5 centimeters away from Chu Hen directly turned his body sideways with a roundhouse kick, and a heavy leg covered in a dense black aura dragged a series of afterimages in the air, instantly sweeping the opponent's face. Bang! The dull sound of the explosion made everyone's heart tremble. In an instant, Xian Hui's head flew up, and his whole body flew out. Scarlet blood, mixed with a dozen broken teeth, burst out together. Purring! With a muffled sound, Xian Hui flew nearly 100 meters away, and could not even get up. What? Looking at the half-dead Xian Hui, everyone only felt a chill down their spine. Chu Hen's kick was really ruthless. Watch my palm. Immediately after, the other people's attacks impressively arrived in front of them. The person in front of them leaped high, flashed to a height of more than 10 meters, and with a condescending diving posture, struck out with a powerful palm that could topple mountains and overturn seas. The corner of Chu Hen's mouth curled up into a cold smile. His figure moved, and a circle of air waves appeared on the ground, and he immediately disappeared from where he stood. That person's palm attack hit empty air, and a layer of surging waves of true energy bloomed in the air. Just as he was about to strike out a second palm, an icy cold aura suddenly came from behind him. Not good. That person's heart trembled, and just as he was about to turn around to attack, a pair of strong and powerful palms firmly grasped his shoulder. Too slow. A mocking voice sounded, and in the next moment, that person felt the world spin, and saw his whole body flipped backward, showing a posture of upside down. Before the other party could react, Chu Hen directly grabbed the other party's shoulder, and quickly fell down with his own body. Both of their heads were facing down, and their legs were facing up, as if they were falling upside down. The wind howled angrily, and the air waves whistled. Just before they landed, Chu Hen immediately loosened his hands, and flipped out in the air. And that person directly hit the ground with his head like a cannonball. Boom, the earth shook, and the entire Spirit Convergence Tao Heart platform trembled. Large and small rocks flew wantonly, and dust flew everywhere. A more than 10 meters wide pit suddenly appeared in front of everyone. And that genius expert of the demon-slaying hall was lying in the pit with his head tilted, and fresh blood had already covered his entire face. He was motionless, like a dead dog, and it was unknown whether he was still alive or not. Ruthless. Really damn ruthless. Landing in that kind of posture, even if he was saved, he would probably be crippled. Bai Lian's eyes were extremely cold, and his face was filled with a cold intent. Chapter 6:26. Boom! Bang! A series of heavy explosions rang out in the air above the Tao Heart platform, and the impact of the true essence was like a thunderclap. At this moment, everyone in the Tao Heart platform was scared silly. They saw Chu Hen single-handedly challenging nearly 10 geniuses from the demon-slaying hall. First, Xan Hui, who was at the 7th rank of the void-piercing realm, was kicked to the ground by Chu Hen. Then, another powerful disciple was hit to the ground by Chu Hen head first. With the momentum of thunder as the beginning of the fierce battle, Chu Hen completely crushed everyone and launched a series of violent attacks. Bang! One figure after another was thrown out. No one could even withstand 3 moves from Chu Hen. Basically, he defeated one person in 1 or 2 moves. His efficiency was so swift that it was simply astounding. Looking at Chu Hen's continuous attacks, Ji Shu and Hua Shui were at a loss. They knew that Chu Hen was very angry, but this was Mount Kunliu after all. With Chu Hen's personality, he should not be so merciless as to beat them half to death. Get lost! Chu Hen shouted, and a heavy kick landed firmly on the chest of the last person. The latter felt like he was pressed down by 1,000 kilograms and had no ability to resist. Chu Hen heavily smashed the other party's body onto the ground. Bang! The bricks on the ground cracked and shattered. That person let out a blood-curdling scream. The violent impact caused his body to bend into an arc. The sound of his sternum shattering caused people to tremble in fear. That person laid on the ground like a pile of mud. Blood unceasingly flowed out from his mouth. You're the only one left. Chu Hen stood up straight, and his cold eyes stared straight at Bai Lian, who had not made a move yet. In just a few blinks of an eye, except for Bai Lian, everyone was finished. In an instant, the entire Tao Heart platform fell into a dead silence. The audience was stunned. The strength of Chu Hen was beyond everyone's expectations. This fellow is quite capable. Don't jump to conclusions too early. Bai Lian hasn't even made his move yet. How strange, why hasn't the elder guarding the tree appeared yet? Logically speaking, we should have stopped them long ago. I don't know, but it should be soon. Everyone whispered to each other, but the atmosphere between Chu Hen and Bai Lian grew increasingly tense. Bai Lian's face was gloomy and his eyes were surging with killing intent. He grinned, revealing his cold teeth. Hee, not bad. You are qualified for me to take action personally. Boom! A mighty force suddenly erupted from Bai Lian's body. He moved his feet and shot out like an arrow. At the same time, a rich gray light surged out like a wave. Under the shocked gazes of the crowd, Bai Lian's body was covered in a suit of gray light at an extremely fast speed. This battle armor was so solid that it seemed solid. It was awe-inspiring and emitted the might of a heavenly general. Not only did the armor cover his body, but it also quickly extended a wrist guard, a shoulder guard, and other protective equipment. It's the Sky Demon battle armor. Ji Shu's beautiful face changed, and she hurriedly reminded, Chu Hen, be careful, don't fight him head-on. The Sky Demon battle armor was not a protective weapon, but a top-notch body refinement technique of the Demon Slayer Hall. Using true essence to transform into a corporeal suit of armor, this was called the Heavenly Demon battle armor. This body forging technique was both offensive and defensive. Not only was the defense impregnable, but the strength of the body could also multiply, especially Bai Lian, who was born with extraordinary strength. The strength of his physical body far surpassed that of ordinary people. When he used the Sky Demon battle armor, its power was boundlessly terrifying. There was no time to explain. Just as Ji Shu's voice fell, Bai Lian, who had erupted with the might of a fiend god, had already rushed in front of Chu Hen. He punched out, causing the space to tremble uneasily. Kneel. Bai Lian's voice was like a thunderclap, and a terrifying wind rushed towards Lin Ming. Bai Lian's armor swallowed and spat out a brilliant light, like a blazing flame. A mass of gray air swirled around his fist, its momentum like a small tornado of true essence. Extremely powerful, everyone thought that Chu Hen would avoid this punch and dodge its edge. However, what was unbelievable was that Chu Hen actually did not show any weakness, and directly punched out, solidly meeting the opponent's fist energy. What? He doesn't want to live? The surrounding people turned pale with fright. Hua Shui and Ji Shu could not help but clench their fists and frown. Bang! What followed was a deafening sound that was comparable to a thunderstorm. The incomparably fierce collision was like two mountains colliding head-on. The incomparably surging shockwaves wantonly spread out, and the stone tiles under the two people's feet instantly exploded into pieces, along with the blossoming chaotic true essence. Chu Hen and Bai Lian were both pushed back by the opponent's counterforce. Everyone was greatly shocked, and their faces were filled with astonishment. It must be known that Bai Lian, who had used the Sky Demon battle armor, was extremely powerful. The power of his punch was not much weaker than an expert of the world profound realm. But who would have thought that Chu Hen would be evenly matched with him? Buzz buzz. Chu Hen's entire right arm was covered in a dense black light. Chu Hen, who possessed the bloodline boundary of the chaotic body, was not afraid of anyone in terms of physical strength. Immediately afterwards, a powerful Reiki energy was released like a surging tide. With a thought from Chu Hen, nearly 100 bright and resplendent runes quickly arranged into a string of characters. This string of characters wrapped around Chu Hen's legs, transforming into a pair of illusory golden boots. It's a rune technique that increases speed. A cry came from the crowd. What a fast technique! Swish! In the next second, everyone saw an aurora flash past. Chu Hen's movement speed was as fast as a ghost. In the blink of an eye, he arrived in front of Bai Lian. One of his hands turned into a palm blade, spitting out black light, and he slashed at Bai Lian's throat. Humph! Bai Lian was not an ordinary person. His eyes turned cold, and he reached out with one hand like an eagle's claw. He gathered the divine power in his body, and with lightning speed, he accurately grabbed Chu Hen's right wrist. A surging ripple appeared in the air, and Chu Hen's attack was immediately restrained. Humph, stupid thing. Fighting in close combat with me, you're looking to die, Bai Lian sneered. He was extremely confident in his physical strength, especially with the power of the Sky Demon battle armor. It was not very possible for Chu Hen to break through his defense. However, a frivolous smile appeared on Chu Hen's face. Who's the stupid one? I'm afraid it's not necessarily. As soon as his voice fell, an extremely overbearing internal energy erupted from Chu Hen's body. Bai Lian was startled, and before he could react, he saw Chu Hen fall backward, and then he turned over and kicked his opponent's head. The speed of his attack was too fast. Even Bai Lian had no time to dodge. Bang! A beautiful rune exploded between the two, and Chu Hen's diagonal kick heavily hit his opponent's chin. Although the Sky Demon battle armor resisted most of the impact, because it was his head that was hit, Bai Lian's legs still left the ground, and his whole body was sent flying. Chu Hen took advantage of the situation to get up, and a dazzling starlight erupted from his right fist. A series of silver flowing shadows appeared in the air, and the power of his fist that could suppress mountains and rivers shook heaven and earth. The surging power surged down, and the fist that was comparable to the impact of the stars landed solidly on the center of Bai Lian's chest. Chapter 6:27. Opening Sun Fist. A dazzling starlight burst out from Chu Hen's right fist, leaving behind a series of silver afterimages in the air. The huge fist with the power to suppress mountains and rivers solidly hit the center of Bai Lian's chest and abdomen. Bang! The space shook violently, and a circle of condensed bright silver fist lines swept out. The surging power poured down, and the ferocious impact comparable to the undercurrents of the deep sea rushed towards Bai Lian. In an instant, Bai Lian was directly sent flying as if he had been hit by a meteorite. Buzz, while flying back rapidly, the Sky Demon armor in front of Bai Lian distorted, and cracks rapidly spread out like a spider web. What? Everyone who witnessed this scene turned pale with fright. Just how strong was the power of Chu Hen's punch? It actually broke the defense of Bai Lian's armor? Rumble! In the next moment, Bai Lian, who had been sent flying, flew across the sky like a meteorite, heavily smashing into an even taller and more majestic mountain 2 miles ahead of him. The earth quaked, rocks flew in all directions, and countless deep cracks spread rapidly, along with the dust that was wantonly stirred up. Hiss! Everyone present couldn't help but suck in a breath of cold air, and an unconcealable look of shock appeared on their faces. Chu Hen's cold eyes narrowed, but in his heart, he secretly shook his head. The defensive power of the so-called Sky Demon armor was indeed strong enough. It forcibly withstood his full-strength punch, and yet it only cracked. From this, it could be seen that the disciples of Mount Kunliu were not only far superior to the disciples of the first-rate sects in the 100 Kingdoms province in terms of realm, but even the martial arts they practiced were also worlds apart. Sky Demon flying slash. It was also at this moment that Bai Lian's furious voice sounded out again. A powerful and shocking momentum swept out, and a sharp spiraling flying blade flew horizontally from the opponent's area, setting off a peerless power that could split the heavens as it flew towards Chu Hen. Endless killing intent roared in the sky, dragging countless illusory afterimages between heaven and earth. The spiral flying blade rapidly enlarged, and in an instant, it became 100 meters wide. Chu Hen was not afraid at all. He grabbed at the air with his bare hand. Buzz! The spiritual power that pervaded the air all gathered towards his palm. A burst of dazzling silver starlight blossomed. His entire right arm seemed to have been soaked in the starlight essence of the heavens. It seemed as if a casual movement of his arm had the power to move mountains and fill seas. Alioth palm. Chu Hen stretched out his palm. Wind and thunder roared, and a huge silver palm appeared in the air in front of Chu Hen. It was dazzling like the hand of a god. Bang! The giant silver palm stirred up a majestic mountain-like aura as it directly slammed into the incoming spiraling blades. The moment the two clashed, it shook the heavenly might in all directions. The violent impact of the power was comparable to the collision between a mountain and a torrent. Under countless shocked gazes, the spiraling flying blade with peerless momentum was directly shattered into light and shadows by the giant silver palm released by Chu Hen. Between heaven and earth, there were bursts of thunderclaps, and the power of light rose wantonly to the sky. Strong winds piled up, and the wild tides mixed with the fragments of power battered the faces of the surrounding people. Everyone retreated, circulating the power within their bodies to defend. and the turbulence caused by the collision of power quickly attracted the attention of the nearby people. Black figures came over in the air, watching from afar. What happened? Who's fighting with who? That guy called Chu-Hen and Bailian are fighting. Chu-Hen? It can't be, right? Where's Bailian? Where is he? Isn't he embedded in that mountain wall? F***ck. An especially powerful and majestic aura filled the sky, and the spiritual power between heaven and earth became uneasy. Chu-Hen stood on top of the Tao Heart platform, like a fiend god guarding this part of the world. And, under the chaotic dust in front of him, Bai Lian, wearing the Sky Demon battle armor, climbed out of the pile of rubble furiously. Behind him, there was a huge pit in the shape of a human, and the pit was several tens of meters deep. Bastard! Bai Lian's face was gloomy, and his eyes glowed scarlet. A trace of blood hung from the corner of his mouth, and it was particularly dazzling. He glared at Chu-Hen, and the dense fierceness in his eyes was like that of a ferocious tiger or wolf. Very good. Next, it's time for me to take your life. Bang! Bai Lian hit the mountain wall behind him with a backhand, and instantly rushed out. Then, an extremely violent energy wave spread out from his body, and a gray light enveloped Bai Lian's entire body. The spiritual power between heaven and earth all produced a strong resonance. The gray light that spread out from Bai Lian's body was like the magma inside a volcano, and it contained an extremely dangerous and terrifying aura. Bai Lian clenched his arms into fists, and the veins all over his body bulged like agitated dragons. Bang! An incomparably heavy and earth-shattering sound rang out, and the majestic power that gathered around Bai Lian's body suddenly erupted. Like blooming fireworks, countless gray light shadows exploded in a three-dimensional shape. In an instant the world dimmed. The sky was dark, and the gray light shadows were like ferocious birds and crows that filled the sky, heaven's slaughtering demon blade. Along with Bai Lian's angry roar, his arms stretched towards the void in front of him. A monstrous momentum rose, and the gray light shadows that filled the sky shot out like arrows released from a bow in the process of moving. The endless light shadows released powerful light patterns that turned into incomparably sharp blades of chi flying in the air. Between the two peaks, a black tide surged. Tens of thousands of gray flying blades swirled like the wind and the clouds, blotting out the sky and covering the earth like the wrath of a tornado. There was a terrifying momentum that seemed to want to tear Chu-Hen into pieces. The sharp sound of wind breaking was unusually ear-piercing, and everyone on the Tao Heart platform retreated far away. Only Hua Shui and Ji Shu stood behind Chu-Hen and did not leave. At this moment, perhaps they already understood why Chu-Hen did this. At this time, their hearts were actually at peace. Looking at the tens of thousands of attacks that were comparable to a gray hurricane, Chu-Hen stood facing the wind. Then, his left hand held the Reiki energy, and his right hand pinched the true inner force. Boom! Two completely different kinds of power rose in anger, wrapping around Chu-Hen's left and right side. That was? The disciples of Mount Kuan-Lu all had astonished expressions on their faces. At a time like this, why would Chu-Hen release two types of energy at once? Didn't he know that true inner force and Reiki energy could not be merged? Buzz! The space faintly trembled. Chu-Hen's palms suddenly clasped together, and in the next instant, a strange Taiji diagram appeared in front of Chu-Hen. The Taiji diagram rotated vertically, and like a shield, it blocked in front of him. Then, under everyone's shocked gazes, the domineering true inner force and the brilliant Reiki energy were like two torrents of spring water converging and merging, and they moved rapidly in the same trajectory. In an instant, an extremely violent power surged out from between Chu-Hen's palms. Soul and martial joint attack, break, break! Along with a furious roar, a beam of light intertwined with golden and black ripples suddenly shot out from the Taiji array. Like a divine aurora, it met the surging black tide that was pouncing over. Boom! Bang! Continuous earth-shattering turbulence shocked everyone. The beam of light, which was a mixture of true inner force and Reiki energy, was extremely penetrating. It pierced through everything like a hot knife through butter. All of the gray chi blades that came into contact with it were instantly smashed into smithereens. Under countless incredulous gazes, the beam of light instantly pierced through the black tide that soared into the sky. Its attack did not weaken, and with a shocking might, it directly attacked Bai Lian in the rear area. How is this possible? Bai Lian turned pale with fright, and his pupils violently shrank. There was no time to dodge. With a muffled bang, the beam of light ruthlessly struck Bai Lian's body. Accompanied by a panicked scream, Bai Lian was sent flying once more and crashed into the mountain behind him once more. Boom! The 3,000 lightning haste was earth-shattering. Chapter 6:28. Boom! The mountains collapsed and the earth cracked. The heaven-slaughtering devil blade moved the wind and clouds, and the soul and martial combined attack shook the sky. In an instant, under the countless widened gazes of the surrounding people, the powerful light pillar that shot out from the Taiji array was like a heaven-shaking divine sword. It directly pierced through the mountain wall at the top of the 100-meter-thick mountain range, along with Bai Lian's body from afar. The dazzling light beam that fused the Reiki energy and true origin energy shot out diagonally. As it pierced through the mountain, it also sent Bai Lian flying into the sky. The sudden gust of wind was like the roar of a ferocious beast. Bai Lian's body bent into an arc, as if he was hit by a meteorite. Blood continuously gushed out of his mouth. Under the impact of such a powerful force, Bai Lian could only allow the force to send him flying. He couldn't even dodge. If it wasn't for the powerful defense of the Sky Demon battle armor, Bai Lian's body would have been penetrated by this terrifying force. Crack! Suddenly, Bai Lian's Sky Demon battle armor cracked like glass, covered in countless cracks. What? Bai Lian's pupils rapidly shrank to the size of a needle. After that, an explosion resounded, and the layer of armor that covered his body that was comparable to absolute defense suddenly shattered into fragments of light that filled the sky. In the next second, the endless violent force hit Bai Lian's body. Boom! A dazzling aurora exploded in the sky, and a chaotic light cloud swept out in all directions. The vast true origin and the surging Reiki energy wantonly mixed together, constantly tearing the space apart. The earth quietly changed color, and the majestic force formed a spectacular mushroom cloud that soared into the sky. Circles of thick light ripples spread out endlessly like ripples on the surface of water. In an instant, everyone present felt a chill in their hearts, and they trembled incomparably. From start to finish, in just a few moves, Bai Lian, who was ranked third in the Devil Slayer Palace, was beaten by Chu Hen to the point that he had to eat dirt. This was a result that no one had expected. It was really a case of a pretentious person meeting a truly awesome person. In just a blink of an eye, he had turned into a fool under everyone's shocked gazes. A figure covered in blood and in ragged clothes fell from the chaotic tide of energy. If they hadn't seen it with their own eyes, no one would have believed that the person before them was Bai Lian. The other party's aura was extremely dispirited. Like a bird with a broken wing, he fell straight down. A few young men from the Demon Slayer Palace flew out and caught Bai Lian before he could land on the ground. Then, they helped him land on a mountain in front of them. Otherwise, if the other party were to fall from this height, he would definitely be turned into minced meat. Seen your brother, Bai Lian? That person roughly examined Bai Lian's injuries, then his face changed. He suddenly stood up, pointed at Chu Hen in front of him, and questioned, "Bastard, aren't you a bit too ruthless?" Almost at the same time, a powerful aura swept over from the other side. "What are all of you doing here? How dare you make a move near the heavenly talisman tree?" In the next instant, a slightly plump old man with grizzled hair flew over on the divine rainbow. This person was the elder who looked after the 1,000-year heavenly talisman tree, Elder Mu. When the man from the Devil Slayer Palace who questioned Chu Hen earlier saw the old man's arrival, he hurriedly complained, "Elder Mu, this person is really ruthless. Senior brother, Bai Lian's meridians are broken in many places. What? The moment these words left his mouth, everyone's expression changed. Was Chu Hen planning to cripple Bai Lian? Elder Mu, it's not like that. Ji Shu and Hua Shui hurriedly ran to Chu Hen's side and explained, this matter was caused by Bai Lian and his group's provocation. The senior brothers and sisters in the Tao Heart platform can all testify. That's right. We're all cultivating the talisman technique. Bai Lian intentionally disturbed us and caused Chu Hen to suffer quite a bit of internal injury. If they didn't provoke us first, Chu Hen wouldn't have fought with them. Oh! Elder Mu narrowed his old eyes and looked at Chu Hen below. He saw that the latter's face was slightly pale, but the blood at the corner of his mouth had already dried up. In other words, he had been injured first. Under the circumstances where he was injured, he was still able to defeat Bai Lian so easily. His strength was really powerful. After a short moment of hesitation, Elder Mu asked in a deep voice, "Is it really as you said?" "Every word is true. Everyone can testify," Ji Shu replied firmly. Elder Mu nodded his head, then turned to look at the people from the Demon Slayer Hall on the other side. At this moment, Bai Lian looked like he was almost out of breath. His entire body was covered in blood, which was completely different from his previous arrogance. This appearance could not be described with the word miserable. Quickly send these injured people to the medical elder. If we delay any longer, there will be no hope. Elder Mu wasn't particularly anxious either. He was very clear how powerful the medical team of Mount Kunliu was. Even if Bai Lian was still breathing, he could be saved. But many of his meridians were broken. He would probably need at least a year to completely recover. In other words, in the next year, Bai Lian could only quietly recuperate. And a year's time, to the competitive Mount Kunliu, was not a small loss. Looking at Elder Mu's appearance, it seemed that he did not plan to punish Chu Hen. This made Ji Shu and Hua Shui slightly relieved. The people from the Demon Slayer Hall were somewhat dissatisfied, but they were, after all, in the wrong. They did not dare to say anything more and immediately left with the injured Bai Lian and the others. "You're called Chu Hen, right?" Elder Mu looked back at Chu Hen and said, "That's me." Chu Hen replied calmly. Elder Mu let out a sigh of relief and replied with a profound meaning, "Right now you are, after all, a guest of my Mount Kunliu. It is not good for me to punish you because of this. I will pretend that I did not see what happened today and let it go. In the future, please leave a way out for everything you do. Don't be too ruthless." Chu Hen snickered in his heart. This was called ruthless? It was already considered that he had some misgivings that he did not completely cripple them. Of course, Chu Hen would not say these words out loud. Since the other party gave him a way out, he would not be so untactful. Junior understands. Thank you, Elder Mu. Elder Mu nodded his head in approval. He then said, "You are also injured. Go back and recuperate. If you need elixirs, you can use my name to get them from the elixir hall." With that, Elder Mu's figure moved and flew away on the Rainbow Bridge. "Chu Hen, are you all right?" Hua Shui and Ji Shu walked in front of him. She took out a healing elixir and placed it next to his mouth. "Eat this. Your Naiwan Gong street tree was only shaken. You should be able to recover in a few days." "Thank you." Chu Hen took the elixir and threw it into his mouth. "I was scared to death just now. I did not think that the joint attack of Reiki energy and true elemental force would be so powerful," Hua Shui said with lingering fear. Chu Hen smiled and did not say anything. The destructive power of the joint attack of soul and martial was indeed strong. However, in reality, it consumed a lot of energy as well. For example, the attack just now had used up about 60% of the Reiki energy. With his current realm, he could only perform the joint attack of soul and martial once. However, in the next few days, I should be able to live a peaceful life. Chu Hen let out a sigh of relief and muttered to himself. Hua Shui and Ji Shu looked at each other. "How can it be peaceful? I think it's better for you to stay in your room for the next few days. Wait for us to find the leader of the Flying Fairy Hall and think of a perfect plan. Even if you can't become the leader, we have to ensure that you can leave this place safely." Hua Shui spoke out her thoughts. However, Chu Hen only indifferently smiled as some wisdom surged out of his eyes. Chapter 629. What? The higher-ups ordered it? Hua Shui and Ji Shu looked at Chu Hen in surprise. However, Chu Hen only faintly smiled and did not explain anything. It could be said that Chu Hen's uncharacteristic behavior today was not as simple as being angry. He had only just arrived at Mount Kunlu, but he was already acting in such a high-profile manner. He believed that Bai Lian must have obtained permission from the higher-ups of Mount Kunlu to ask for the blue Ran sword from him. After all, it was not appropriate for the higher-ups of Mount Kunlu to openly target Chu Hen. Therefore, they could only rely on their disciples to complete the task. However, they had underestimated Chu Hen's strength. Chu Hen took advantage of this opportunity to heavily injure Bai Lian and the others. He used this as a warning to the people of the Kunliu Gate that he was not so easy to bully. At the same time, he also proved his strength to the people of the Flying Celestial Palace. The Flying Immortal Palace was the only side that still supported Chu Hen. This was because the leader of the Flying Immortal Palace was loyal to Sect Master Gong Yang. Even if the leader of the palace, Qi Hanyu, was not optimistic about Chu Hen, she would still consider this matter just because of his relationship with Gong Yang. Now, Chu Hen deliberately made this matter known to everyone because he wanted the Flying Celestial Palace to pay attention to him. As long as the Flying Celestial Palace began to pay attention to him, his situation in Mount Kunlu would be much easier. Only by proving his value, the Flying Celestial Palace would ignore the opposition of the Devil Slayer Palace and Void Palace to protect him. Therefore, Chu Hen's seemingly impulsive action today had another purpose. Flying Celestial Palace. Palace Master, that young man called Chu Hen had a conflict with Bai Lian of the Devil Slayer Palace today. Elder Mu stood with a slight bow in the main hall. He looked at the graceful, noble, and beautiful woman sitting at the top with a respectful expression. That old fellow Wen Liang is really impatient. It's only the second day, and he can't hold it in anymore. Qi Hanyu muttered to herself. She then waved her hand as her eyes became slightly dry. "Forget it, you can leave," she said. "Forget it, you can leave. Let them go. From today onwards, the Flying Celestial Palace will withdraw from the fight for the position of sect leader." Qi Hanyu was already extremely disappointed in Mount Kunliu. He didn't intend to meddle in this matter anymore. However, Elder Mu nodded slightly and continued, "Palace Master, I think you need to change your decision." Chu Hen won. He ended the battle in just a few moves. If I didn't show up, Bai Lian would have lost his life. What? Qi Hanyu abruptly stood up from her chair, her cold eyes revealing a dignified look. That young man defeated Bai Lian? Yes. Elder Mu nodded with certainty. Furthermore, in this old man's opinion, that young man is definitely holding back. This child is not simple at all. When she heard this, Qi Hanyu couldn't help but recall what Qin, Qi Shu, and Hua had said earlier. Even if you don't believe us, you should believe in sect leader Gong Yang's judgment. After a brief moment of hesitation, Qi Hanyu's beautiful eyes flashed with determination. She said in an extremely decisive tone, "Go and tell Wen Liang and Xie Wuhe immediately. If they dare to send people to cause trouble for Chu Hen again, I guarantee that none of them will be able to lay a finger on the sect master's position." Bang! As soon as she finished speaking, Qi Hanyu's palm struck the armrest of the chair beside her. In an instant, the armrest of the luxurious chair directly caved in, leaving a clear palm print. Elder Mu's complexion slightly changed. He solemnly nodded and said, "Understood." Just as Chu Hen had thought, in the next few days, he lived in peace and tranquility. No matter where he went, no one came to provoke him. It seemed that the pressure exerted by the flying immortal palace master on the other two palace masters was effective. At least for a short period of time, he wouldn't be disturbed. After the battle on the Dao Heart platform, the higher-ups of the Kunliu Gate began to secretly observe Chu Hen. There were even people who suspected that Chu Hen was a direct disciple of sect master Gong Yang. There were also people who said that it was luck that he was able to defeat Bai Lian. When the heat of this matter died down, the demon-slaying palace and the void palace would still not take him seriously. In any case, Chu Hen turned a deaf ear to these movements in the surroundings. Every day, he studied at the Dao Heart platform, the Heavenly Martial platform, the Martial Art tablet, and many other cultivation places in Mount Kunliu. He didn't delay any aspect of his cultivation at all. He completely regarded himself as an ordinary disciple of Mount Kunliu. However, seeing that the flying immortal palace gradually began to pay attention to Chu Hen, Fu Qin, Hua Shui, and the others also sincerely breathed a sigh of relief. However, they still had to take one step at a time to see what would happen in the future. The back mountain of the Kunliu Gate. It was endless, and there was no end to it. The magnificent mountain range was like a vast and boundless sea of trees. There were many powerful demonic beasts and poisonous insects living here. Every day, many disciples of Mount Kunliu would come here to kill demonic beasts, train in actual combat, or hunt for the precious items on the bodies of demonic beasts to obtain merit points for the sect, as well as elixirs and other resources to increase their cultivation. For the Eastern Victory State, where the competition was fierce, even if they only stopped for a day, they would be surpassed by countless people. Talent and diligence were often indispensable factors to become an expert. Whoosh! At this moment, Chu Hen was like a phantom, constantly changing his position in the lush forest. He was extremely fast, like a dragonfly skimming the surface of the water. In the blink of an eye, he was about 200 kilometers deep into the back mountain. Where is the water soul essence that you mentioned? Chu Hen's lips moved slightly as he asked in a low voice. Don't worry, we'll be there soon. A gentle voice came from within his body. The one who spoke was none other than the sacred-winged heavenly flame sparrow that he had not spoken to for a few months. Previously in the Hidden Wind region, Chu Hen had shared the boundary of the demon eye bloodline with it. After that, the sparrow seemed to be in hibernation and did not speak for almost half a year. Just last night, after Chu Hen went to the back mountain to find a place to cultivate the 4th level of the 7-star sacred scripture, the Migres chapter, the sacred-winged heavenly flame sparrow suddenly told Chu Hen that it had sensed the aura of the water soul essence. This water soul essence was a heavenly treasure formed from the essence of water. Normally, it was also a treasure that was rarely seen. This kind of treasure was helpful to the power of the demon eye sacred physique. Therefore, early this morning, Chu Hen followed the direction that the sacred-winged heavenly flame sparrow had pointed out. However, after so long, he had not seen the so-called water soul essence. Soon! The sacred-winged heavenly flame sparrow's tone was very certain. All right, I've confirmed its location. Where? Chu Hen's eyes lit up. Chapter 630. Southeast, whoosh. In the blink of an eye, Chu Hen had crossed 2 mountains in a row and finally arrived at an open mountain stream. At the bottom of the mountain stream was a clear lake. The lake passed through several valleys, and it looked like a giant snake lying there. Chu Hen landed on a mountain peak and gazed at the beautiful scenery in front of him. The calm and peaceful lake seemed especially peaceful. A gentle breeze blew past, sweeping up a few drops of water and causing ripples to form on the surface. The water soul essence is in the lake? Asked Chu Hen. Yes, answered the sacred wing heavenly flame sparrow. Are there any demonic beasts hiding under the lake? I haven't found out yet. However, a treasure like the water soul essence is usually guarded by demonic beasts. Just be careful when you go down. I won't be responsible if you die. Thanks for your auspicious words. Chu Hen snappily sneered. Immediately after, his body moved and like a sharp arrow, he pierced into the ice-cold lake water. Along with a series of splashes, Chu Hen didn't say a word and directly plunged into the deep waters. The water here was very clear. With Chu Hen's cultivation, he could completely ignore the pressure under the water. He moved in the water like he was walking on flat ground. Soon, Chu Hen discovered that the lake was much deeper than he had imagined. After diving nearly 100 meters, he still couldn't see the bottom. However, he could see many aquatic plants floating in the water. They twisted and swayed like kelp, looking like a group of snakes. "Why haven't I sensed the slightest energy aura of the water soul essence?" asked Chu Hen. "Demonic beasts are far more sensitive to all kinds of rare treasures than humans. Are you satisfied with this explanation? Is that so? If you doubt me, then just say so," said the sacred wing heavenly flame sparrow coldly. "Huh?" Just as Chu Hen was about to say something, his eyes suddenly lit up. Before he knew it, he had already dived to the bottom. A gentle blue light attracted his attention. The lush algae danced under the water, swaying in a strange manner. And in the center of the seaweed was a blue ball-shaped object. The size of the ball was larger than an adult's fist. It rested quietly on top of the seaweed like an egg in a bird's nest. Chu Hen's eyes shone with surprise. Upon closer inspection, the blue sphere was flowing with a sparkling and translucent spiritual liquid, as if it was extracted from the essence of the blue light inside the rainbow. It was dazzling and dazzling. "This is the water soul essence." Chu Hen suppressed the pleasant surprise in his heart. With a flick of his palm, a wisp of true inner force was released and probed toward the water soul essence. Just as Chu Hen's power was about 2 palms away from the water soul essence, a strange energy wave suddenly erupted. What was going on? Chu Hen was startled. Before he could react, he saw that with the water spirit essence as the center, a series of beautiful runes quickly spread out. The runes intersected and connected. In an instant it turned into a triangular rune array. The ever-changing runes gave off a dazzling brilliance. At the same time, the 3 corners of the rune array each released a beam of light. The beams of light converged at one point above, forming a pyramid-shaped protective barrier, isolating the water soul essence within it. There was a rune array protecting it? Chu Hen's eyebrows wrinkled. Someone set up a barrier here? Does it have an owner? Who cares if it has an owner or not? Let's take it. The sacred wing heavenly flame sparrow said. This, Chu Hen was a little hesitant. The other party had set up a defensive formation here to prevent others from taking it away. Although Chu Hen never thought of himself as a gentleman, since this item already had an owner, if he were to take it away, it would more or less be a bit unreasonable. Why are you still acting like an idiot? You don't want a treasure right in front of you. How stupid are you? This water soul essence isn't anything too rare. Let's borrow it for now. Once Demon Eye's bloodline is strong enough, it won't be a problem to return it with 10 times the price. Not to mention that the person left the water soul essence here. It'd be strange if it wasn't taken away. I understand. After a moment of hesitation, Chu Hen no longer hesitated. He would borrow it for now and think of a way to return it in the future. Immediately, the power of the chaotic body was released silently. His hand enveloped in a tyrannical black light directly reached for the pyramid-shaped protective barrier. As soon as the two of them came into contact, the fierce hidden force continuously pounded against the pyramid's wall. The light curtain shook violently, and layers of ripples spread out like ripples on the surface of the water. Next, Chu Hen's hand directly passed through the protective barrier. It was much easier than he had imagined. Chu Hen raised an eyebrow. His hand formed a claw and reached for the water soul essence. A suction force was released. The blue ball of light slightly twisted and trembled. Strands of blue optical fibers separated from the inside and then gathered in Chu Hen's palm, forming another small ball of blue water. Feeling the pure energy waves released by these blue optical fibers, Chu Hen revealed a surprised expression. In a few blinks of an eye, a rather large ball of blue water had gathered in Chu Hen's palm, and the water soul essence on the algae at the bottom of the lake had clearly shrunk by half. Chu Hen did not plan to take all of it. He only needed to take 2/3 and leave a portion for the original owner. This was not too much. Suddenly, at this moment, an extremely ferocious underwater current surged towards them. The majestic aura was like a terrifying undercurrent in the deep sea. Whirlpools stacked up, and the algae and rocks at the bottom of the water intertwined and fused together, creating a powerful impact that surged towards Chu Hen. Not good. The sudden change caused Chu Hen's heart to be greatly alarmed. He hurriedly emitted a powerful true origin power to defend himself. Bang! In an instant, an earth-shattering riot suddenly exploded at the bottom of the water. Monstrous waves soared into the sky, reaching up to 100 meters. The water splashed all over the sky like a raging tsunami, and the entire lake became extremely turbulent. Bang! Immediately after, Chu Hen was blasted out of the water along with the flying water droplet. He stabilized his body in the air above the lake, and stared at the chaos around him with a startled expression. He had obviously been attacked just now. But what made Chu Hen even more surprised was that he was actually unable to detect the opponent's aura beforehand, and it was the same now. He simply could not catch the slightest bit of that person's aura. The opponent's cultivation far surpassed his own? This did not seem very likely. Otherwise, that attack just now would be enough to make Chu Hen unable to get up. Who is it? Please show yourself, we can discuss this. Don't fight as soon as you come, Chu Hen said in a deep voice. The person who came was most likely the original owner of the water soul essence. If that was the case, he was willing to have a good chat with him. Boom! Just as he finished speaking, the water in front of him was suddenly split apart by a powerful wave of air. A huge water sword shadow swept up a dense power and whistled towards him. A strong gust of wind blew directly at his face, splitting the waves, and its aura shook the heavens. Chu Hen's expression changed slightly. Black light rose and stacked on his right arm, as if it was swallowing and spitting fire from the underworld. Bang! He punched out, and the black fist aura bombarded the huge water sword shadow. A circle of surging light patterns immediately bloomed and exploded. Huge waves rose, and flying rain fell together, covering the sky and covering the earth, and enveloping the entire lake. Under the bright sunlight, a shallow rainbow stretched across the surface of the lake. Under the swirling rain, Chu Hen looked around cautiously, and there was a lot of confusion between his brows. The opponent was like a ghost, and he could not catch any aura at all. This was the first time Chu Hen had encountered such an opponent. It was too strange. Can you find out where that person is? Chu Hen asked secretly. Don't ask me, settle it yourself. The sacred winged heavenly flame sparrow replied lazily, as if it had nothing to do with it. Buzz. Chapter 631. Boom! Along with the monstrous waves set off on the surface of the water below, a flood dragon formed by the lake water soared into the sky and rushed toward Chu Hen like a raging dragon out of the sea. Chu Hen's expression changed slightly. He moved his body and dodged sideways. The water dragon went straight up to the sky, like a real dragon waving its tail and dancing, stirring up the wind and clouds and setting off stormy waves. The enemy was in the dark while he was in the light. This kind of fighting method was extremely disadvantageous. Chu Hen continued to spread his true inner strength, almost extending to more than half of the lake, but it was still difficult to trace the aura of the other party. That person was like an invisible person, and he could not sense any aura at all. Splash! Before Chu Hen could make any response, a giant hand formed by the lake water quickly reached out from below. It was menacing, like the hand of a giant in the water. Chu Hen was caught off guard and was directly grasped by the giant hand. Roar! The next moment, the water dragon that was dancing in the sky descended from the sky and swooped down toward Chu Hen with its claws and fangs bared. The fierce wind hit the surface of the lake below, setting off rolling waves. Just as the ferocious water dragon was about to descend, Chu Hen suddenly raised his head. At the same time, a bewitching purple light erupted from his body. Buzz! The space trembled violently, and the huge water dragon suddenly stopped less than a meter above Chu Hen. Along with a circle of powerful light waves, the huge body of the water dragon immediately collapsed and exploded into flying rain and water splashes all over the sky. Chu Hen's eyes were cold, and a pair of evil and charming eyes flashed with purple light. Break! Bang! Then, the giant hand that grabbed his body also exploded, and the wanton rain scattered, mixed with the mighty power of the true inner strength swept in all directions. Immediately, Chu Hen's pair of demonic eyes probed the water below. Over there. Soon, a blurry shadow was caught by Chu Hen. The shadow was like a deep-sea phantom, moving swiftly underwater. Chu Hen could only vaguely make out that it was a human figure. Apart from that, he couldn't make out anything else. "Your Excellency, why don't you show yourself and talk?" Chu Hen said in a deep voice. To be honest, he didn't have much interest in such a meaningless battle. As soon as he finished speaking, a water arrow shot out from the surface of the water. It tore through the air and dragged a wave of air behind it as it flew over. Chu Hen's eyes turned cold. 2 beams of purple light shot out from his eyes and collided with the water arrows. Bang! Light patterns crisscrossed and water splashed. A solid wave of chi spread out in all directions, causing space to tremble incessantly. The powerful aftershock caused Chu Hen to be pushed back more than 10 meters. Moreover, the chi and blood in his body were faintly restless and rising. This person's cultivation was very strong. He had probably reached the profound world realm. Chu Hen frowned slightly. If this was really the case, he was afraid that he couldn't fight for long. Especially in a situation where he couldn't catch the opponent's aura, it would be even more disadvantageous for him. After a moment of consideration, Chu Hen immediately made a decision in his heart and made a decision. Buzz! The 4 black dots in his eyes rotated rapidly and released a cold and dangerous aura. Solitary burning demon flame. Boom! In the next moment, a purple flame burst out of the distorted space. The strange flame directly stuck to the surface of the lake and quickly burned. It flowed along with the waves and spread all the way in all directions. Since ancient times, water and fire were incompatible. However, the solitary burning demon flame could burn everything. Even true inner strength could burn it, not to mention ordinary water. The demon flame spread at an extremely fast speed. In just a few blinks of an eye, the entire lake was turned into a sea of purple flames. Heaven and earth were scorched and distorted. Taking advantage of this opportunity, Chu Hen's figure moved and left the area above the lake, leaving behind a resplendent shadow in the air. "Forgive me for not keeping you company." Immediately, Chu Hen didn't stay any longer. He used the light-shaking body technique several times and disappeared into the horizon in the blink of an eye. Rumble! In the next second after Chu Hen left, the entire lake that was covered by the purple demon flame began to churn violently. The wind rolled and howled angrily. The huge lake rotated rapidly and formed a huge whirlpool. Following this, a strange figure flew out of the whirlpool. This figure was actually transparent, as if it was formed by the condensation of a ball of clear water. However, immediately after, the transparent figure quickly became solid. Her skin was as white as snow, and her beautiful and soft long hair was like black silk dancing in the wind. In the blink of an eye, a beautiful figure like a hibiscus appeared above the chaotic whirlpool in the water. Buzz! Waves shook the heavens. Her jade-like hand condensed in the air and emitted an aura that seemed to be able to control the heavens and control the earth. The wantonly burning purple flames in the surroundings actually flew towards the center of this person's palm, the mighty scene was like a giant whale sucking in water. In less than 3 seconds, the purple demon flame in the surroundings was completely absorbed into the other person's palm and turned into a solid ball of flame. What a domineering flame! The person's cherry lips slightly pursed as she looked at the extremely dense ball of purple flames in her palm. Her cold eyes were filled with a hint of coldness. Since when did Mount Kunlio have such a person? Her red lips parted slightly as she muttered to herself. Following this, a ball of water was released from her palm and trapped the purple flames within it. The surface of the lake gradually calmed down, but the lake water was evidently much murkier than before. Following this, her cold eyes narrowed slightly as a wave of ripples appeared on the surface of the lake. A ball of blue water separated from the surface of the lake and floated in front of the person. Looking at the water spirit essence, that was half its original size, a faint layer of frost appeared on her beautiful face. "Humph, you even dare to snatch something from me, Lingyan. Don't wait until I find out who you are." After successfully leaving the mountain stream lake, Chu Hen embarked on his return journey. He had already obtained the water spirit essence. Although it was only half, Chu Hen was satisfied. However, who was the person he met just now? Chu Hen's heart was more or less worried. This Mount Kunlio was really a place of crouching tigers and hidden dragons. He could easily meet such a powerful expert. It seemed like he had to be careful in the future. However, the most important thing was to improve his cultivation. "Where did you go?" Just as he returned to his residence, Hua Shui's slightly anxious voice was heard. Chu Hen was startled at first, then he replied, "What's wrong?" "I went to the back of the mountain for a stroll." "I thought you were dragged away by someone again?" "I say, big sister, how can I be dragged away so easily? Don't look at me like I'm a prisoner, okay?" Chu Hen was a little helpless. Although he was safe and sound in Mount Kunlio these few days, Hua Shui, Ji Shu and the others basically came over every day to ensure that Chu Hen was fine before going back. "I'm just worried about you." Hua Shui pouted with an unhappy expression. Chu Hen was a little amused. He casually pinched her round cheeks and said, "Thank you for your concern, thank you for your relationship. I'm very good. Ever since that incident last time, no one dares to provoke me anymore, right?" "That's not necessarily true. Don't underestimate our Mount Kunlio. There are still a few people who can threaten you," Hua Shui said. Chapter 632. "Oh right, is there anyone in Mount Kunlio who can completely hide their aura? The kind that people can't sense even if they stand behind you?" Chu Hen asked curiously. Hua Shui raised her eyebrows. "Why are you asking this?" "Nothing, I'm just asking." "There are many. The cultivation methods of the Void Temple are almost all like this. However, the one that you mentioned about not being able to sense your aura while standing behind you is probably the strongest martial art of the Void Temple, the Heavenly Void Seal." Heavenly Void Seal formula. Chu Hen's eyes narrowed. "Yes, but this technique is very difficult to cultivate. In the entire Mount Kunlio, other than the Void Temple Master, there seems to be only one person who has mastered it." "Oh? Who is it?" "Lingyan," Hua Shui answered, "the most talented and powerful disciple of the Void Temple. She's also one of the strongest competitors for the new sect master." "Wait, why are you asking this? Don't tell me you've caused some trouble again?" Hua Shui seemed to have suddenly become smarter than before. Chu Hen's expression was a little strange. He pretended to cough and smiled. "No. Why would an honest person like me go around getting into trouble?" Hua Shui's face darkened. If Chu Hen didn't say this, she wouldn't have thought much of it. But now that he said it, she felt uneasy. She glared at Chu Hen and said, "You better not provoke Lingyan. There aren't many people in the entire Mount Kunlio who aren't afraid of her. Look at your dishonest behavior, you're really worrisome." Chu Hen couldn't help but find it funny. This little girl was actually lecturing him like an adult. It really made him speechless. However, since there were only 2 people in Mount Kuan-Lu who had grasped the Great Void Heavenly Seal technique, there was only one person who could be sure that the person was the Void Temple Master, Xia Wuhe. That person was most likely Lung Lingyan from the Void Temple. Even though they had only exchanged a few blows, he had to admit that that person was indeed very powerful. If they really fought, the probability of Chu Hen winning was less than 30%. Sigh. There will be trouble in the future. Chu Hen secretly sighed. If you don't have anything to do, then don't run around. Wait for a few of us to go to the Flying Immortal Palace in the next few days and see how the Palace Master will deal with you. The corner of Chu Hen's eyes twitched. He glared at Hua Xuan and said, "You really know how to use words. I always feel that coming back with you was a huge mistake." Hua Xuan smiled mischievously and stuck out her pink tongue. All right, don't worry. I'm leaving first. If you need anything, you can look for little wooden fish. He's very clever." Chu Hen smiled, nodded, and said nothing more. After seeing Hua Xuan off, Chu Hen returned to his room. Qi Ting and Lu Qi also went to do their own things. Everything on Mount Kunliu was new to them. The many facilities and resources here could allow one to achieve twice the results with half the effort on the path of cultivation. Then, Chu Hen flipped over and sat on the bed. With a movement of his palm, a crystal-clear blue ball of water appeared in his hand. The blue ball of light was slightly smaller than a fist and sparkled like a crystal ball. The spiritual liquid inside flowed and glowed, as if it was the gathering of the essence of the rainbow. Immediately after, Chu Hen discovered that strands of blue optical fibers were seeping through the layer of water film and flowing out, evaporating into the air like steam. The water spirit essence cannot be placed directly in the air. Its power will slowly evaporate. The sacred winged heavenly flame bird's disdainful voice sounded. Chu Hen was stunned. It can only exist in water? Of course, and it has to be natural flowing water. In flowing water, the water spirit essence will gradually absorb the essence of the water and become purer and stronger. I see. Chu Hen suddenly understood. This also explained why Lung Lingyan would place the water spirit essence at the bottom of the lake and protect it with a talisman array. Forget it, I won't think about it anymore. Immediately, Chu Hen released a gentle wave of true yuan from his body and enveloped the water spirit essence in his hand. Buzz buzz. Stimulated, the water spirit essence trembled slightly, like an irregular ball of water swaying wantonly. Chu Hen focused his mind and a suction force directly pulled the blue ball of light into his body. In the next second, a blue ball of water appeared above the Yuan Dan in his Dantian's Qi Si. Under Chu Hen's control, the water spirit essence slowly descended and then wrapped around Chu Hen's Yuan Dan. The golden Yuan Dan and the blue ball of water merged, emitting a gentle light pattern. It looked like a sparkling amber. Then, the pure energy from the water spirit essence directly merged into the Yuan Dan and followed the true Yuan to travel through Chu Hen's 8 extraordinary meridians and every inch of his flesh. Chu Hen instantly felt a cool and refreshing feeling spread throughout his body. This feeling was very refreshing and invigorating. What was even more surprising was that Chu Hen could clearly feel that the power of the Demon Eye's bloodline was obviously agitated, and seemed to be very happy. But at the same time, while the power of the Demon Eye's sacred physique was gradually increasing, the other aura in Chu Hen's body was also slowly becoming stronger. Time passed slowly, and in the blink of an eye, it was already evening. Qi Ting and Lu Qi had already returned from outside, but Chu Hen still did not step out of the room. Of course, the two were already used to Chu Hen's cultivation method of staying in the room for a few days every few days. What the two needed to do was to double their cultivation and not be left further behind by Chu Hen. In the evening, the sun was about to set. Clang! Suddenly, a dazzling bolt of lightning crossed the entire sky, and the gorgeous silver light illuminated the earth. Then, rolling thunder swept over. After a while, a heavy rain suddenly poured down from the 9 heavens. This sudden heavy rain caused the entire Mount Kunliu to be in an uproar. Because there was still more than half of the setting sun in the west hanging in the sky, it wouldn't be surprising if it was just a rain of the sun. But what was truly shocking was that the rain that filled the sky was actually golden. The golden rain was dazzling and dazzling. Countless golden raindrops drifted between the heavens and the earth, forming a mysterious and unfathomable scene with the sunset in the west. What happened? Why is there a golden rain of light? I've lived for a long time. It seems like this golden rain contains a lot of pure spiritual energy. Shock, astonishment, confusion, fear, and many other emotions quickly engulfed the entire Mount Kunliu. All the high-level elders and inner disciples were stunned by this unforeseen event. The gorgeous golden rain dyed the entire heaven and earth in a dazzling golden color. Everywhere it went, there was a stretch of radiance. On the ground, there were also small streams of water that flowed in joy. Could it be? On a tower in front of the Flying Immortal Hall, Ji Shu frowned slightly. Her red lips were slightly parted and her face was filled with shock. Fu Qin, Ji Shu, and Hua Shui, who were beside her, all looked at her questioningly. What is it? Senior sister Ji Shu, tell us quickly. Hua Shui was an impatient person and quickly asked. Ji Shu bit her red lips and murmured, the last time a golden rain fell on the eastern continent was 1,000 years ago. What? Everyone's expression changed. Look, what is that? A cry from afar caused everyone's heart to tremble again. In the western sky, where the sun had set, an incomparably huge sky screen appeared at a speed visible to the naked eye. The majestic scene was like a mirage. The heaven and earth lost color as a miracle descended. The scene that appeared in the sky screen was a huge circular formation. The formation was covered with complicated and mysterious ancient numbers. Then, the circular formation slowly rotated and the mysterious runes on it quickly lit up. It emitted a dazzling light, like a spirit vine that had been activated. It was gorgeous and eye-catching. Not long after, under countless shocked gazes, the circular formation slowly split into two as it rotated and opened from the middle. This? Everyone turned pale with fright, and their eyes widened in shock. This formation that looked like a talisman formation was actually a giant door? The way the giant door opened was especially special. It was like an unpredictable ancient divine formation. The middle of the door was not vertical, but there was a buckle on the top and bottom. The buckle on the left door was above the door, and the buckle on the right door was embedded inside the left door. The ancient and complicated giant door opened, and an extremely mysterious aura of desolation swept out from behind the giant door. Behind the giant door that was difficult to trace with one's eyes was an endless dark area. It gave people the feeling that it was a strange passage that led to the land of the gods. Spectacular, shocking. It was unprecedented, spectacular, and shocking. Everyone was dumbfounded. Their pupils trembled as they felt an incomparably huge impact on their optic nerve. Although what appeared in front of them was only an illusion of the sky screen, the shocking majesty was incomparably real. What exactly was behind the mysterious ancient formation door? Everyone's heart was filled with infinite anticipation and desire. What's happening outside? Why is it so noisy? At this moment, Chu Hen, who was absorbing the water soul essence's energy in the room, was already awakened by the chaotic movement outside. With a stomach full of doubts, Chu Hen opened the door. Creak. In the instant that Chu Hen walked out, the dazzling radiance directly caused his entire face to be reflected in a golden color. This is Chapter 633. The golden rain that filled the sky scattered between the heavens and the earth, and a mysterious and ancient talisman gate appeared in the sky above the 9 heavens. At this moment, it wasn't just Mount Kunliu. The entire victorious East Province had broken its original peace and caused a huge uproar. A natural phenomenon. What did this mean? Was it the arrival of a disaster, or the arrival of an opportunity? The vast eastern continent seemed to be about to usher in an unprecedented storm. This is? On Mount Kunliu, Chu Hen stared at the magnificent scene in the sky in shock. This was the first time he had seen such a scene after about the time it took to drink half a cup of tea. The phenomenon in the sky gradually dimmed. That huge, godlike ancient formation gate slowly concealed itself and then disappeared without a trace. The drifting golden rain was still spreading, but it was also slowly becoming smaller. However, the confusion and shock in everyone's heart became stronger and stronger. It's been 1,000 years. That place is finally going to open again. The flying celestial hall master, Chi Hanyu, stood on a high platform. Her pair of majestic eyes revealed some emotions. 10 more days. On the other side, the demon-slaying hall master, Wen Liang, narrowed his eyes and a formless aura surged out. The victorious East Province is going to become lively again. The Void Hall Master, Xie Wuhe, nodded and raised his head. His hands were behind his back and his aura was extraordinary. The eyes of the 3 hall masters turned cold, and they shouted in unison. Ancient desolate heaven domain. After an hour, the mysterious golden rain of light finally stopped. The sun set and the night fell. However, the entire Mount Kunliu was in an endless uproar. Dang! The sect's highest emergency assembly order resounded. In an instant, many figures rushed towards the flying celestial hall's conference hall. The various elders, including the 3 hall masters, had called for 2 emergency meetings in a short few days. This kind of situation had not happened for a long time. It was easy to imagine that the importance of the matter behind this strange phenomenon was not any weaker than the news of sect leader Gong Yangyu. Feeling the bustling Mount Kunliu, Chu Hen's heart was also filled with many questions. Do you know what happened? Chu Hen asked the sacred winged heavenly flame sparrow. The ancient desolate heaven region is about to open. It seems that 1,000 years have already passed. The sacred wing heavenly flame sparrow's voice was filled with uncertainty. Ancient desolate heaven domain? Chu Hen's pupil shrank slightly, and his heart couldn't help but tremble slightly. This was not the first time he had heard of this name. The last time he had heard of it was at the Heavenly Sword Pavilion. At that time, the Azura sect's Lian Qi, the illusory rain sect's Helian Zhong, and the otherworldly spirit sect's Flying Snow Palace personally went to the Heavenly Sword Pavilion to ask the Sword Pavilion Master, Mu Xiong Kai, for the Buddha Demon Sword and the Great Pagoda Devil Mantra. It was said that these 2 items were obtained by the first Sword Pavilion Master in the ancient desolate heaven domain. It had been 1,000 years since then, but it was still remembered by the other 3 sections. Although he had heard of it before, Chu Hen was extremely unfamiliar with the ancient desolate heaven domain. What kind of place is it? To put it simply, it's an independent realm. There are many different theories about how this realm was formed. Some say that it's an ancient, war-torn land, where many eternal powerhouses broke out in an earth-shattering holy war and fell there. It's called the Holy War Ruins. Others say that it's a plane created by an ancient powerhouse to give blessings to future generations. In any case, there's a lot of rumors, and in the end, even their guardians don't know which rumors are true. The sacred wing heavenly flame sparrow paused for a moment before it continued. However, it's undeniable that there are many opportunities in the ancient desolate heaven domain. Chu Hen's eyes lit up. He knew that this damn bird had a high standard. There were many things that it did not care about. It was rare for it to acknowledge the ancient desolate heaven domain. However, how could he go there? How could he go there? These were all questions that he had to face. After all, there were so many people in the world who knew about the ancient, desolate heaven domain. If he wanted to go there, it would not be as easy as saying he wanted to. However, based on the reaction of the people at Mount Kunliu, there might be news coming soon. Before that, he just had to wait patiently. In the blink of an eye, 3 days had passed. The atmosphere at Mount Kunliu was extremely restless. Not only did it not weaken, but it also became more and more lively. All sorts of news about the ancient desolate heaven domains spread like wildfire. However, Chu Hen remained patient and absorbed the water soul essence's energy in his room every day. It was as though what was happening outside had nothing to do with him. On the fourth day, whoosh, Chu Hen woke up from his cultivation state and let out a long breath of turbid air. I didn't expect that after 4 days, I've only refined this little bit of the water soul essence. Chu Hen understood something as he sensed the water soul essence that had shrunk in his dantian. Initially, he thought he would be able to refine such a small piece of water soul essence in just a few days. However, the reality was too different. However, what made Chu Hen surprised was that the bloodline power of the demon pupil sacred body had increased by quite a bit. Of course, Chu Hen did not expect that a small piece of water soul essence would be able to level up and evolve the demon pupil. This was not realistic. The higher the limit of the bloodline, the harder it would be to level up. Especially the demon pupil, one of the 10 strongest saint bodies. Therefore, Chu Hen did not think too much. He would take it step by step and slowly improve. At this moment, a series of hurried and chaotic footsteps came from afar. Then came the heavy knocking on the door. Bang, bang, bang. Without thinking, Chu Hen knew that it was Hua Shui. Out of so many people, she was the only one who was so insensitive. Hey, 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 hurry up and open the door. As expected, a familiar voice was shouting outside the door. Hua Shui, be gentle. It would be bad if you disturbed Chu Hen's cultivation. Ji Shu's gentle voice came out. Oh, I was too excited. I almost forgot. I won't kill him, right? You. Seriously, you're so big and yet you're so reckless. Creak. The door opened. Hua Shui, who was caught off guard, hit her head on Chu Hen's chest. Hua Shui immediately touched her forehead that was pretending to be in pain. Don't you have eyes? Are you blaming me? Chu Hen did not know whether to laugh or cry. However, seeing that the 4 ladies were all here today, he was even more surprised. What? Guarding me together? Chapter 634. I have 2 pieces of news for you. One is good news and the other is not bad. Hua Shui touched her head that was hurt by the collision with one hand and said with surprise with her eyes wide open. 2 pieces of news? Chu Hen raised his eyebrows and replied with interest, let's talk about the second one first. Yes, the Demon Slayer Hall Master and the Void Hall Master have already reached a compromise. They won't do anything to you for now. But you have to be the leader and lead us to find the Heaven and Earth Mystic Yellow Order in the name of a disciple of the Flying Immortal Palace. Heaven and Earth Mystic Yellow Order? What's that? Chu Hen was more confused the more he listened. It can't be? You still don't know? Hua Shui looked at him strangely. Know what? Haven't you been talking about it? Chu Hen replied. All right, Hua Shui, let me tell you. Playing the zither, he walked 2 steps forward and looked at Chu Hen with a serious expression. A few days ago, in the evening, did you see the strange phenomenon that occurred in the sky? I did see it. That's the sign that the ancient desolate heaven domain is about to open. This also means that the East region is about to release the Heaven and Earth Mystic Yellow Order. The ancient desolate heaven domain is a special independent plane. There are many legends and rumors about it. The passage to this plane opens once every 1,000 years, and the so-called Heaven and Earth Mystic Yellow Order is equivalent to a pass to enter there. In other words, not everyone has the right to enter the ancient desolate heaven domain. They must first obtain the Heaven and Earth Mystic Yellow Order. Fu Qin paused for a moment, then pursed her red lips and continued to explain. The Heaven and Earth Mystic Yellow Token is divided into 4 command medallions, which are the Heaven Token, Earth Token, Profound Token, and Yellow Token. A single command medallion also has the qualifications to enter the ancient desolate heaven domain, but only 4 people can enter at most. If all the command medallions are gathered, then the entire sect will have the right to enter. Fu Qin's explanation was very detailed. Chu Hen listened carefully. The ancient desolate heaven domain was about to open. The heaven and earth mystic yellow order was the pass to enter the ancient desolate heaven domain. What if 2 of the 4 tokens are the same? Chu Hen asked. No. Fu Qin shook his head decisively. Only 4 different tokens can be considered a complete set. Even if you gather 10 heaven tokens or 20 mysterious tokens, it can't compare to 4 unique heaven earth black yellow tokens. Where can I get the heaven and earth mystic yellow order? Chu Hen asked the most crucial question. Fu Qin shook his head. They could be in any corner of the victorious East State. Furthermore, the quantity is extremely limited. We only have a year to collect them. After hearing those words, Chu Hen instantly understood. This seemingly simple matter, in reality, was unimaginably difficult to accomplish. The location of the heaven and earth mystic yellow tokens was the first problem. Even if he knew where it was, he would have to fight with countless people for it. The ancient desolate heaven domain only opened once every 1,000 years. One could imagine how many people wanted to enter. The number of spots was extremely limited. In the following year, there would definitely be a huge bloodbath in the Dongxing province due to the fight for the heaven and earth black yellow tokens. Chu Hen hesitated for a moment before asking, "Why did you give me such a huge responsibility?" "Because you're the successor chosen by sect leader Gong Yang," Fu Qin replied. "What else?" In the past 10 days, the 3 palace masters have argued countless times over the matter of the new sect leader. Because of the release of the heaven and earth black yellow order, the higher-ups of the Kunliu sect came up with an agreement after a strict discussion. What agreement? Each of the 3 great palaces will send out a team to fight for the heaven and earth black yellow tokens. Whoever successfully brings back 4 tokens will be elected as the new sect leader, Fu Qin explained tirelessly. Who will lead the other 2 teams? Chu Hen asked. Nangong Ho will lead the Devil Slayer Palace's team, while Lung Lingyan will lead the Void Palace's team. Whoosh! After listening to their narration, Chu Hen instantly had a feeling of exhaustion in his heart. Tired, he was really tired. Externally, he had to fight for the heaven and earth black-yellow tokens with the various teams in the victorious East State. Internally, he had to fight for the position of sect leader. Who exactly did he offend? Why was there so much trouble every day? This is the not bad news you're talking about? It doesn't seem to be beneficial to me at all. All of you know better than me how many forces there are in the victorious East State. How difficult do you think it is for me to fight for the pass to enter the ancient desolate heaven domain? The 4 women fell silent. They did not know how to answer. However, they did not tell Chu Hen that this was already the greatest effort they could fight for. Due to the blue ran sword, Chu Hen was completely tied to Mount Kunliu. If Chu Hen wanted to leave, the blue ran sword would have to stay. If Chu Hen did not leave, he would not be able to convince the Devil Slayer Palace Master, Void Palace Master, and the people of Mount Kunliu to accept him as the new sect leader. Due to the ancient desolate heaven domain opening, the Flying Celestial Palace Master fought for an opportunity for Chu Hen. The 3 great palaces worked together to fight for the heaven and earth black-yellow tokens. Fighting against the various groups of the victorious East State was not only a test of one's cultivation, but also a test of one's leadership ability, tracking ability, and commanding ability. If Chu Hen could defeat the other 2 great palaces and bring back the heaven and earth black-yellow token, it would prove that he had the ability to become the sect leader. However, if Chu Hen failed, it would mean that he was inferior to the others. Naturally, it would not be his turn to become the sect leader of Mount Kunliu. Qin, Qi, Shu, and Hua had indeed done their best. The Flying Celestial Palace had also done their best to force the other 2 palace masters to take a step back. However, everyone had neglected the most fundamental problem. That was, Chu Hen did not really want to become the sect leader. The blue ran sword was forcefully recognized by Gong Yangyu to be Chu Hen's master. The reason why Chu Hen came to Mount Kunliu was to give the four women an explanation. So, everything that seemed to be the most reasonable was, in reality, unfair to Chu Hen. "We won't force you." After remaining silent for a long time, Fu Qin finally said those words. Nongqi Jishu and Hua Shui's eyes were filled with disappointment. They did not tell Chu Hen that they would follow Chu Hen in the process of searching for the heaven and earth black-yellow token. In other words, they would also have to face the dangers that Chu Hen faced. The fate of the 5 people in the sect leader was practically linked together. "That's it then. We'll think of another way." Then, Fu Qin turned around and left. The other 3 followed behind silently. However, at this moment, a hearty and gentle voice sounded from behind. "I'm actually very curious about the ancient, desolate heaven domain. Can the 4 of you help me?" The moment this was said, the 4 women stopped in their tracks and turned around subconsciously. They saw Chu Hen leaning against the door with his arms crossed in front of him. A gentle smile hung on the corner of his mouth. The 4 of them smiled as well. They felt an indescribable warmth in their hearts. Hua Shui casually wiped away the tears at the corner of her eyes. She almost cried just now. "You bastard, are you trying to scare us to death?" As she spoke, she patted Chu Hen's shoulder. Chu Hen laughed heartily. All right, I was wrong. After telling you this not bad news, it's time to tell me the good news. Are you sure you won't disappoint me?" Chapter 635. Before you depart, you can enter the mysterious soaring realm to comprehend and cultivate once. When Hua Shui said this, her large watery eyes were suffused with a glow of envy. Before Chu Hen could speak, Hua Shui spoke first. "I know that you're definitely going to ask what the mysterious soaring realm is, smart." Chu Hen laughed as he knocked the other party's head. Hua Shui hurriedly shrunk her head back and giggled as she waved her hand at Ji Shu and said, "Senior sister Ji Shu, explain to this bumpkin what the mysterious soaring realm is." The few of them smiled. Ji Shu's beautiful eyes lightly raised as she said softly, "The mysterious soaring realm is one of the 3 great realms of our sect, and it possesses an extremely miraculous and powerful energy. Cultivating once in the mysterious soaring realm is equivalent to a few years in the outside world. Moreover, those with high natural talent are usually able to comprehend powerful martial techniques from the mysterious soaring realm. For example, the solitary sword flying celestial art cultivated by our sect's sect leader, Gong Yangyu, was comprehended from the mysterious soaring realm." Solitary sword flying celestial art? That's a pretty scary name. "TSK, what do you know?" Hua Shui's small eyes glanced at Chu Hen with slight disdain as she said, "This solitary sword-flying celestial art is the strongest of the 3 strongest martial techniques of our sect. Even the Void Hall's Void Heavenly Seal technique and the Devil Slayer Hall's Grand Devil Slayer technique are ranked behind it." That year, sect leader Gong Yangyu's flying celestial sword technique swept through an army and shocked the entire victorious East State. Think about how magnificent that scene was. It's that powerful? Chu Hen's eyes lit up. "Of course, it's the same as me lying to you. Moreover, the solitary sword flying celestial art is even more powerful when combined with the Jade Rand sword," Ji Shu said. But what?" Chu Hen asked. "But besides sect leader Gong Yang, no one else in our sect has comprehended the solitary sword flying celestial art." "What?" Chu Hen was stunned. This was the crux of the matter. The single sword flying immortal technique was the most powerful martial arts technique of the Kunliu sect. It was not easy to comprehend this technique. Of course, what Ji Shu and the others meant was that Chu Hen did not have to learn the single sword flying immortal technique. There were still many benefits to the mysterious realm of the flying immortal. After noon, on the vast plaza in front of the flying immortal hall, a 6-pointed star had already risen. The platform was clearly layered, with the center being the highest and the surrounding layers decreasing in number. It looked like it was formed by stacking magnificent hexagonal stone platforms. At this moment, the flying Celestial Hall Master, Chi Hanyu, and many high-ranking elders of the flying Celestial Hall were on the stone platform. Below the stone platform in front of him, Chu Hen's eyes were calm, neither servile nor overbearing. Chu Hen, Elder Mu, who was standing behind Chi Hanyu, took a few steps forward and said in a dignified manner, "Junior is here." Chu Hen replied, "Because you brought back our sect's keepsake on behalf of Sect Master Gong Yang, we will open the mysterious realm of the Flying Immortal today and allow you to comprehend it once as a token of gratitude." As soon as this was said, many of the disciples of Mount Kunliu around the plaza revealed a look of envy. To any disciple of Mount Kunliu, entering the mysterious realm of the Flying Immortal was a dream. Only those who had made great contributions to the sect were qualified to enjoy such a reward. Of course, everyone was very clear about the purpose of the high-ranking officials of the Flying Celestial Hall. Chu Hen's identity was special. After all, he was chosen by Gong Yang Yu. There was no reason for the Flying Celestial Hall to mistreat him. "Thank you, Flying Celestial Hall Master." Chu Hen first nodded slightly at Elder Mu, then cupped his fists at Chi Hanyu and the others to thank them. Elder Mu nodded and immediately turned to look at Chi Hanyu, who was behind him. The latter, who was emitting a dignified aura, lifted her cold eyes and said indifferently, "Array." Yes. Along with a formless and powerful aura, a circle of air waves rippled in the air. The 5 high-ranking elders beside Chi Hanyu all spread out and landed at the 5 corners of the 6-pointed stone platform. The place where Chi Hanyu was standing was at the position of the upper corner. Buzz. The 5 elders with powerful auras all exploded with a powerful wave of true origin energy. Following that, the 5 of their hands quickly formed various strange hand seals, flying celestial seal technique. With a loud shout in unison, the 5 of them faced one of their hands down at the same time and placed their palms on the ground. Boom! In the next moment, a powerful wave of chi swept out, and strange black lines extended out from their palms like vines. Mysterious runes that looked like ancient numbers instantly covered the entire stone platform. Then, the center of the stone platform quickly converged into a circular and complicated pattern. The center of the pattern released traces of obscure energy fluctuations. Then, a peculiar groove the size of a bowl slowly sunk into the platform. Zeng! Accompanied by a heavy metallic sound, Chi Hanyu, the palace master, waved her hand like a willow, and a dazzling silver disc appeared in her palm. The disc was dark gold in color and was covered with long and narrow spirit patterns. One look and one could tell that it was not an ordinary item. Chi Hanyu's palm moved slightly, and with a "xiao" sound, the disc shot out, leaving behind an illusory parabolic ray of light in the air. Then, it steadily fell into the groove in the center of the runes on the stone platform. Buzz! The mysterious disc was like a key, fitting into the groove. In an instant, the entire stone platform suddenly bloomed with a dazzling and gorgeous light pattern. The complicated runes were immediately activated. Streaks of electric arcs of silver light spread and flowed along the spirit patterns on the surface of the platform. The resplendent flowing shadows caused the stone platform to shine brightly. This mysterious flying celestial realm was the most important and secret place of the flying celestial palace. It could only be opened by using a special hand seal technique and the secret key. And the secret key was the strange disc that Chi Hanyu had just thrown out. Buzz! Buzz! The ground under everyone's feet was faintly shaking. The stone platform made of hexagrams was like a dazzling heaven-opening rune array. The crisscrossing runes were like the intersection of spirit vines. Immediately after, a dazzling light shrouded the entire stone platform. Under the countless shocked gazes of everyone present, an illusory tower emitting a majestic aura slowly rose from under the stone platform. The airflow between heaven and earth became abnormally chaotic. The clouds above the flying celestial peak surged as if a storm was approaching. Rumble. In a few blinks of an eye, a giant tower that was hundreds of feet tall suddenly appeared on the stone platform. The giant tower was illusory and surrounded by a black light. The surrounding space was faintly distorted, looking like a scene from a dream. Although Chu Hen was already mentally prepared, he was still shocked by the shocking scene in front of him. The majestic illusory tower stood in the sky, causing the sky to lose its color. The spirit patterns below flickered like a god. Chu Hen couldn't help but feel moved, and his eyes were filled with anticipation. On the other hand, the disciples of Mount Kuan Lu were filled with envy. Their eyes were filled with passion. Is this the mysterious realm of the flying celestial? Qi Ting, who was at the side of the crowd, nodded approvingly. The mysterious realm is inside the tower, Ji Shu explained. I really envy Chu Hen, Hua Shui pouted, looking as if she was about to cry. At this moment, the master of the flying celestial temple, Qi Hanyu, said loudly, every time this mysterious realm opens, it consumes a lot of resources. I hope you can make good use of this opportunity. I know, Chu Hen replied solemnly. Moreover, Qi Hanyu's beautiful eyes lifted, but she looked at the crowd below and said, Qin, Qi, Shu, Hua, the four of you have been running around outside for many years. To be able to bring back the sect master's token and sect master Gong Yang's order, your contributions cannot go unnoticed. Today, the four of you can enter the mysterious realm of the flying celestial together to comprehend what? As soon as these words were spoken, the crowd immediately burst into an uproar. Hua Shui immediately widened her eyes, looking as if she didn't dare to believe it. We can also enter the mysterious realm? Happiness came too suddenly. Not only Hua Shui, but even Fu Qin, Ji Shu, and Nongqi were also pleasantly surprised. Chu Hen also turned around and looked at them with a smile. These years, the four of them had indeed contributed too much. Although they didn't succeed in bringing Gong Yangyu back, it could be considered as giving the entire sect of Kunliu an explanation. It would be inexcusable if they didn't give a reward. Qi Hanyu said indifferently, prepare to enter the mysterious realm. As for what kind of opportunity you can obtain inside, it will depend on your own luck. Yes. Thank you, Master. Hua Shui and the others bowed to express their gratitude. Immediately, without any hesitation, Chu Hen soared into the sky and directly flew towards the mysterious realm tower in front of him. Buzz. Subsequently, the mysterious realm tower erupted with a dazzling golden light. Chu Hen didn't suspect anything and directly entered the golden light. Under the envious gazes of the crowd, he disappeared into thin air within the light screen. Chapter 636. Whoosh! An extremely dazzling light flashed in front of him, and Chu Hen entered the interior of the tower of the mysterious realm. Looking at the novel world that appeared in front of him, Chu Hen suddenly had a feeling of enlightenment. Vast, endless, the sky was a vast starry sky that stretched as far as the eye could see. Below was an abyssal canyon that stretched as far as the eye could see. There were mountains and rivers in front, and the scenery was picturesque. What was even more surprising was that there were many mountain ranges that floated between heaven and earth. The water flowed across the horizon like a dragon soaring into the 9 heavens, and it was even more like the Milky Way piercing through the sky. This was like the legendary dreamland. Everything that appeared here had deviated from the laws of nature in the outside world. This mysterious realm of the flying celestial is really magical. Chu Hen muttered to himself. Immediately after, the layer of golden light screen behind Chu Hen slightly swayed for a moment. Immediately, 4 young figures flew out one after another. These 4 people were the 4 women that came with Chu Hen, Qin, Qi, Shu, and Hua. Wow, this is the mysterious realm of the flying celestial? It's so spectacular, it's like a painting. Hua Shui's voice that was filled with excitement was the first to spread out. The other 3 women's faces were also filled with pleasant surprise. You've come, Chu Hen said with a slight smile. Let's go. I can't wait to feel the power of the mysterious realm. Hua Shui patted Chu Hen's arm, and then she flew past him. Chu Hen shook his head and immediately headed forward with the 4 women. The mysterious realm of the flying celestial was unpredictable. Soon, everyone felt the myriad of miraculous things here. Everything in the surroundings was like a dream, real and fake. Everyone seemed to have passed through a space-time tunnel and arrived at a novel world after another. Huge rocks floated between heaven and earth, and the rocks were covered with deep-veined patterns, like meteorites in space. What's ahead? Nong Qi asked in surprise. Wow, it's a meteor shower, Hua Shui shouted. What meteor shower? It's a crystal rain, Ji Shu corrected. Dazzling silver specks of light scattered in front of him. The specks of light were like countless fireflies flying between the heavens and the earth, decorating the resplendent sky. Chu Hen moved his palm, and a silver speck of light fell into his hand. Upon closer inspection, these specks of light were actually tiny fragments, like fragments of ice crystals, shining brightly. Buzz, in the next second, the speck of light disappeared from Chu Hen's hand. Following that, Chu Hen clearly felt a strand of strange power drilling into his body. It flowed into his 8 extraordinary meridians and fused into his Dantian's Qi Si. Chu Hen raised his eyebrows, feeling slightly surprised. This kind of crystal fragment has been specially processed. As long as it comes into contact with the human body, it will automatically be absorbed. There's no need to touch it, Fu Qin explained in a low voice. Chu Hen nodded. I see. Don't bother with these things. There will be better ones later. After all, the 4 girls had grown up in Mount Kunliu. Although this was their first time coming to the flying immortal mysterious realm, they had heard about the situation here from others. They had a relatively good understanding of it. To the crystal stones of the outside world, the surrounding crystal stone rain was many times more magical. However, this was only at the outermost level of the flying, immortal mysterious realm. After Chu Hen finished listening, he allowed the crystal stone rain to transform into strands of power and fuse with his body. He did not deliberately collect them. Not long after, a world flickering with silver light appeared in front of everyone's eyes. Floating in front of them was no longer a crystal stone rain, but pieces of crystal stones. They were crystal clear and dazzling like precious treasures. Chu Hen casually grabbed a crystal stone the size of a bowl into his palm. In an instant, a surge of pure power surged into Chu Hen's body like a tide. Compared to the speck of light just now, the energy contained in this crystal stone could be said to be extremely different. The crystal stone in Chu Hen's hand shrunk at a speed visible to the naked eye, like melting ice. In about 10 seconds it disappeared completely. Chu Hen only felt a warm source flowing in his body. Every inch of the meridians in his body was absorbing this pure power. How do you feel? Is it much better than absorbing normal crystal stones? Ji Shu raised her beautiful eyes and asked softly. Yes. Chu Hen nodded affirmatively. It's very comfortable, and there are no impurities at all. The further they went, the larger the size of the crystal stones they saw. They could even see a myriad of luxurious and resplendent crystal pillars. All kinds of crystal pillars were like sculptures, giving people a completely new visual enjoyment. Can these crystal stones be brought out? Chu Hen suddenly asked. The 4 of them were stunned and looked at each other in surprise. Of course not, why are you so greedy? Hua Shui scolded. Hua Shui. Ji Shu stopped her and then asked, You want to bring some for Qi Ting and Lu Qi, right? Hearing this, Hua Shui was immediately stunned. Chu Hen smiled, indicating that he acquiesced in it. Oh, I see. I've wronged you. Hua Shui stuck her tongue out in embarrassment before she continued. The crystals here aren't real. They're products that have been processed by a special method. They can only be absorbed here. Once they leave the mysterious realm, they'll turn into nothingness. Moreover, there is nothing to store them. I see. Chu Hen showed a little regret. But it doesn't matter. Hua Shui patted her chest confidently and said, When I get out of here, I can at least reach the level of 6th spiritual tattooist. At that time, I will refine a 7-heart heavenly yuan pill for each of them, and I guarantee that their cultivation will improve quickly. Chu Hen nodded slightly. That's great. About an hour later, the crystal pillars in front of them became more and more magnificent and magnificent. Even the shortest crystal pillar was nearly 100 meters tall. The luxurious and dazzling crystal pillars were suspended around them, emitting an especially strong aura. Subsequently, there was a crystal pillar that was flashing with mysterious and complicated rune secret inscriptions. These rune secret inscriptions intertwined and transformed into various exquisite patterns of different postures. Some patterns were of a fist, some were of a palm print, and some were of a ferocious beast. At the same time, including Chu Hen, everyone's speed began to slow down. However, this slowness did not originate from their actions, but from the pressure released by this mysterious realm. We can already feel the pressure in the mysterious realm. Next, let's move on our own, she said softly while playing the zither. Everyone nodded. After all, in the mysterious realm of the flying celestial, everyone had their own opportunities and opportunities. If they gathered together, it would be difficult to choose because of the difference in opinions. Chu Hen, the crystal pillars on top of them are all special bodies that can lead to the next profound realm. What you can comprehend over there is completely dependent on your own opportunity and talent, as well as a considerable amount of luck. We won't accompany you. We'll meet again after we get out of here, she warned with a serious tone. Once upon a time, her attitude towards Chu Hen was especially cold. Even at the best of times, she was lukewarm. She didn't know when, but her attitude had gradually changed. Chapter 637. We'll meet again after we get out. After some simple instructions, Chu Hen, Qin, Qi Shu, and Hua all moved and flew in 5 different directions. They immediately spread out and headed towards the deeper regions of the mysterious realm. Everyone's luck and fortune were different, and the opportunities they encountered would also be different. Moreover, they wouldn't encounter any danger in the mysterious realm of the flying immortal, so there was no need for the 5 of them to gather together. The deeper they went into the mysterious realm, the greater the invisible pressure Chu Hen felt. Crystal pillars that were like ice sculptures emitted a luxurious and majestic aura. The strange structure could be said to be the work of the gods, and it was especially gorgeous. It looked like an iceberg that was suspended between heaven and earth. At a glance, there would be a crystal pillar that was engraved with mysterious talisman patterns every 10 or so crystal pillars. Previously, Fu Qin had already explained in detail that these crystal pillars that were engraved with talisman patterns were special objects that could be passed through to the next mysterious realm. Immediately, Chu Hen's figure moved and flashed to the front of a crystal pillar. The crystal pillar that was nearly 200 meters tall was dazzling. The crystal pillar was engraved with complicated and exquisite patterns. Chu Hen stretched out his right hand and placed his palm on the surface of the crystal pillar. Buzz buzz. In the next moment, along with a strange energy fluctuation, the mysterious talisman patterns on the crystal pillar shone brightly. Immediately after, Chu Hen's pupils shrank slightly. He only felt a huge force pulling him into another space. This is? An open-minded scene instantly appeared in Chu Hen's line of sight. In front of him, the mountains rose and fell, and the rivers meandered endlessly. Chu Hen was in the void, as if he had come from the mysterious realm of the flying immortal to a vast forest. Rumble! Immediately after, a majestic and monstrous force emerged between the heaven and earth. In the sky above the 9 heavens, the dark tide surged. Along with the vast and mighty sound of rolling thunder, a huge hand parted the clouds and stretched down from the void. It was like the hand of a god, bombarding a huge mountain in front of him. Boom! In a split second, the towering mountain range in front of Chu Hen was directly flattened. The rocks that were recklessly blown up were scattered everywhere. The endless lush forest was directly crushed into fine powder, What astonishing destructive power! Seeing the scene before him, Chu Hen was shocked. The power of that palm just now had far surpassed the killing power of the third level of the seven-star scripture, the Alioth palm. The martial skills contained in the flying immortal mysterious realm are indeed not ordinary. Although he was amazed, it was not enough to tempt Chu Hen. Almost without any hesitation, Chu Hen immediately withdrew from the profound realm with a thought. Hua! With a burst of dazzling light, Chu Hen returned to the side of the crystal pillar. Although this martial skill is powerful, it is not what I expected. Chu Hen shook his head, and then once again flew towards the deeper region of the mysterious realm. About half an hour later, the resistance released by the mysterious realm made Chu Hen feel a greater pressure. The further he went, the stronger the pressure. Soon after, Chu Hen once again entered a crystal pillar that was suffused with faint yellow light patterns. Hua! This time, what appeared in front of Chu Hen was a yellow world. Dust filled the sky, and sand whistled wildly. At a glance, as far as the eye could see, there was only an endless desert. Chu Hen floated in the air. His eyes were lightly closed, and he quietly sensed every single-minute movement of space within the profound realm. After about the time to drink a cup of tea, Chu Hen suddenly opened his eyes. In an instant, a raging force rose between the heaven and earth. Boom! The shocking sand swept across the sky, setting off a huge sandstorm that stirred up the wind and clouds. Under the envelopment of the endless sandstorm, countless grains of sand gathered together, piled up, and instantly formed a giant that was 1,000 meters tall. This giant was completely made of sand, and the defense of its entire body was impregnable. The terrifying aura was like that of a furious, fierce beast. Secret technique of forming sand. Chu Hen's eyes slightly narrowed, and he muttered to himself. Compared to the mysterious realm that he had entered before, this secret technique of forming sand was obviously much more profound. The defense and attack of sand were very strong. If he learned this secret technique of forming sand, it was equivalent to having an extra helper in the process of fighting against the enemy. Moreover, this giant's aura was sufficient, especially in a large-scale group battle. It could display a very strong destructive power. This secret technique is very suitable for Qi Ting to cultivate. After he finished speaking, Chu Hen left the place and returned to the flying immortal mysterious realm. If he had no other choice, Chu Hen would still be quite interested in this secret technique. However, it was rare for him to come to the flying immortal mysterious realm, so he naturally had to choose the best, or the most suitable thing for him. Being in the mysterious realm, Chu Hen felt as if he was in a vast sea of stars. The surrounding tens of thousands of crystal pillars were like the bright stars in the Milky Way, giving off a feeling of being a drop in the ocean. Rather than searching one by one like this, I might as well try to reach my own limit and see what I can encounter in the end. After a short period of thinking, Chu Hen made such a decision in his heart. The deeper he went into the mysterious realm, the greater the pressure he released. If he reached his limit, until the last second when he could not withstand the pressure, what could he encounter? A resolute look flashed in Chu Hen's eyes. His figure moved, and like a shooting star, he shot out explosively. The magnificent crystal pillars were left far behind on both sides of Chu Hen. Chu Hen was like an aurora shuttling through the vast starry sky. Chu Hen continued to move forward, and the pressure exerted on his body by the mysterious realm continued to increase. As time passed, Chu Hen's movement speed clearly slowed down. At the beginning, he could leap a few miles, but later on, he was as slow as an old man. The formless pressure accumulated more and more. Chu Hen felt as if he was carrying a huge mountain on his back as he moved forward. At the same time, the scene that Chu Hen saw also changed quite a bit. In the illusory heaven and earth, the number of special crystal pillars had obviously decreased by a lot. It was very difficult to see a crystal pillar with secret runes drawn on it. The ones floating in the surrounding area were all ordinary crystal pillars, and they looked very ordinary. and, in the end, even ordinary crystal pillars could not be seen. In the vast and endless void, Chu Hen bent his body and bent his knees. His slightly thin figure looked extremely frail. Too tired. Every part of his body seemed to be filled with lead, and every step he took was extremely strenuous. Even so, Chu Hen's pitch-black eyes still revealed a sense of determination. He had not reached his limit. As long as he could still stand up, he would not look back. Outside the mysterious realm, on the square of the flying immortal peak, on the hexagonal stone platform, spirit patterns flickered, dazzling, and a huge tower that was more than 300 meters tall emitted an illusory and misty light. Like a dream, the distorted space made this tower of the mysterious realm look especially mysterious. It has already been 4 hours, and there is still no movement. This is very normal. It means that they have not found what they need, or are still in the process of comprehending. It really makes people envious. I have been in the Kunlia sect for more than 10 years, and I have not entered the flying, immortal, mysterious realm. That guy is not from the Kunlia mountain, nor has he made any great contributions, but he can actually cultivate in the mysterious realm once. Comparing people to people is really infuriating. He is happy now, but think about it, what if he can't get back the heaven and earth black-yellow order? What would be the result? I don't think I need to say more. The Kunlia Mountain's disciples around the square were whispering to each other. There were those who envied Chu Hen and the others, and there were also those who rejoiced in Chu Hen's future fate. It would not be easy to defeat Nangong Qian and Linglingyan. After all, in the hearts of the people of Kunlia Mountain, the successor of the new sect leader could only be one of them. Chu Hen almost had no chance at all. If Chu Hen could not become the sect leader, just the fact that he had broken the weapon master's contract with the Blue Ran sword was enough to cause a huge injury to Chu Hen. All of you, stay here and inform me if there is anything. The master of the Flying Immortal Palace, Chi Hanyu, raised her eyes and said indifferently, "Yes." Elder Mu and the other high-ranking elders nodded in unison. Under the respectful gaze of the crowd, Chi Hanyu left first. Below the square, Chi Ting crossed his arms in front of him. His tall and sturdy body was like a bear as he asked the handsome young man next to him in a deep voice, "Little wooden fish, how long will it take for them to come out?" Lu Qi, who was standing at the side, also looked at Chi Ting curiously. Xiaomu pondered for a moment before he answered, "The shortest time is 4 hours, and the longest is 7 days. Oh, that's a long time?" "Yes. Since everyone's choices and talent are different, there will be a difference in time. Naturally, it doesn't mean that the longer you stay, the more you'll gain. Based on what I've seen, there were 3 powerful senior brothers who wasted their chances." "Did I just waste a chance?" Chi Ting and Lu Qi were stunned. "What do you mean?" Lu Qi asked. "Because they all wanted the best, they turned a blind eye to the other martial arts and secret techniques. In the end, 2 of them didn't make it to their destination and died on the way. Although one of them managed to make it there, he failed to comprehend the martial tactic." Xiaomu said. Their curiosity was piqued. Chi Ting asked in a deep voice, "What kind of martial tactic is it?" "The strongest technique of the Kunlia sect, the one-sword flying immortal technique in the mysterious realm." In the vast and ethereal world, Chu Hen's figure was as thin as a butterfly in the wind. His knees were almost touching the ground, and endless fatigue and exhaustion enveloped his body like a tide. He couldn't hold on any longer. Chu Hen tightly clenched his teeth. Every single step he took was abnormally difficult. Buzz! Suddenly, a bright and beautiful radiance suddenly flashed past the corner of Chu Hen's eyes. Chu Hen's pupils shrank. In an instant, his entire pair of eyes reflected a beautiful and resplendent splendor. This is? About 100 meters in front of him, there was a giant crystal pillar with a majestic aura. This crystal pillar was 1,000 meters tall, and it looked like a giant sword piercing into the bottom of a giant mountain. Chapter 638. Looking at the giant crystal pillar in front of him that looked like a divine sword in the stone, Chu Hen seemed to see a glimmer of hope in the endless darkness. The crystal pillar was thousands of meters tall and looked like a divine sword that was pierced into the bottom of a giant mountain. The majestic might that soared into the sky was enough to seize the power of heaven and earth. It shook the misty sky and attacked Chu Hen's optic nerves. That's it. Almost in an instant, Chu Hen determined that the crystal pillar in front of him was what he was looking for. Immediately, Chu Hen clenched his teeth and used all his strength to walk towards the crystal pillar. Step by step, it was extremely difficult. His whole body seemed to be pulling on the cable tied to the giant ship. However, the look in Chu Hen's eyes became more and more determined. This short distance of less than 100 meters could usually be crossed with just a thought, but now it seemed especially long for Chu Hen. Step by step, the distance between the two was slowly shrinking. This section of the road, Chu Hen walked for a long time. The moment he reached out and touched the crystal pillar, a cold feeling came from his fingertip. Chu Hen seemed to have removed all the shackles, and an unprecedented feeling of emptiness replaced the previous heaviness. Chu Hen took a deep breath, and a relaxed smile appeared on his face. "It's you." Although Chu Hen didn't know what kind of power this crystal pillar contained, he had already chosen the other party. Immediately, a gentle force was released from his palm and began to communicate with the crystal pillar. Buzz! In the next moment, the giant crystal pillar blossomed with a brilliant light, especially the mysterious spirit patterns on it. Like an activated light vine, the silver light flickered and flowed, dazzling. Immediately after, a surging wave of brilliance burst out from within, sweeping towards Chu Hen. A strong traction pulled Chu Hen into another mysterious realm. Chu Hen did not show any signs of rejection and directly entered. Hua! Immediately, after a dazzling light flashed in front of him, Chu Hen instantly came to a new world, the wilderness. The mountain range was majestic, and the ravine was difficult to fill. Reflected in Chu Hen's eyes was a vast land with high mountains. In the distance, the mountains rose and fell, like a dragon crawling on the ground. The long river was like a snake, a flat plain that ran through the east and west. Under Chu Hen's feet was a huge rock protruding from the edge of the cliff. The momentum of the boulder was like the head of a giant eagle. Chu Hen stood at the top of the cliff, as if he was standing on the head of a heavenly eagle, overlooking the mountains and rivers, looking down at how small the mountains were. Force. This was Chu Hen's first thought upon arriving here. Within this profound realm, every inch of land, every river, every mountain, and even the strong winds that surged in the air, all of them revealed an extremely powerful aura. His aura was especially majestic, and it was as sharp as a sword. At this moment, Chu Hen once again confirmed that this was the place he had been looking forward to. Outside the profound realm, flying Immortal Peak Plaza. The tower of the profound realm stood between heaven and earth like a god, emitting a mysterious aura. A few high-level elders who were controlling the operation of the profound realm sat cross-legged at each corner of the six-pointed stone platform. Their expressions were calm, and they were all meditating with their eyes closed. At this moment, the crowd in the square had already changed batch after batch. Many people came and went and then came again. Other than the disciples of the Flying Immortal Palace, people from the Demon-Slaying Palace and the Void Palace also came to join in the fun. "It's already been 3 days, right?" "That's right. Not a single person came out. It should be like this. What are the 5 of them doing inside? Why do you care about what they do? What if they all have difficulty choosing?" What I want to say is, in a few days, the Heaven and Earth Black-Yellow Order will be released. Our Demon-Slaying Palace and the Void Palace have already started preparing. Your Flying Immortal Palace still lacks a leader. Why not follow us? You don't have to waste time on an outsider. The ridicule from the disciples of the Demon-Slaying Palace and the Void Palace made the disciples of the Flying Immortal Palace silent. Indeed, in less than 5 days, the heaven and earth black-yellow order would be released. At that time, the entire victorious East Province and even the Eastern Domain would be in a huge turmoil. At that time, no one dared to predict how chaotic the victorious East Province would be. As for whether Chu-Hen could replace the flying immortal palace and obtain the heaven and earth black-yellow order, no one had any confidence. Perhaps the reason why the flying immortal palace lord did this was to give Gong Yangyu an explanation. She used all her strength to protect Gong Yangyu's choice and gave Chu-Hen the greatest support. Then, what was the outcome? Chi Hanyu no longer had too much luxury. There's still no movement? Lu Qi, who had just returned from outside, walked to the side of Qi Ting and Xiaomu. Qi Ting shook his head. Not yet. Buzz. But, at this moment there was a strange rhythm between heaven and earth. Everyone's hearts lit up, and their gazes all swept towards the tower of the profound realm. The illusory and ethereal giant tower released a strong golden light. On the body of the tower, spiritual inscriptions were shining, and there were many runes and secret scrolls flowing on it. The bright light illuminated the huge square, setting off the fiery faces of everyone present. Subsequently, 4 young and beautiful figures flashed out from the dense holy radiance, and they formed a scene that attracted the attention of everyone. It's junior sister Fu Qin and the others. It's really the sisters' heart bond. They actually appeared so neatly. The appearance of the 4 women, Qin, Qi, Shu, and Hua, caused quite a commotion in the flying immortal peak. Although it had only been a few days since they last saw each other, everyone present could clearly feel that the aura emitted by the 4 women had changed a lot. Their cultivation base has all improved a lot. Yes. There's nothing strange about this. Cultivating in this profound realm for a few days is equivalent to cultivating outside for a few years. This situation is very normal. Under many envious gazes, the 4 women landed on the ground one after another like spiritual butterflies that were untainted by the mortal world. Compared with before, they were like lotus flowers out of the water, showing their unearthly aura. Senior sister apprentices, congratulations on your cultivation base. Xiaomu came forward to congratulate them with joy. Qi Ting and Lu Qi also followed one after another, feeling happy for them. I suddenly became a 7th grade spiritual tattooist. Hua Shui jumped up and down excitedly. This was 1 level higher than the 6th grade spiritual tattooist she expected. The other 3 women also gained a lot. Jishu also reached the 7th grade spiritual tattooist realm, and Nongqi entered the 7th rank of void-breaking realm. Fu Qin was even better than them, reaching the 8th rank of void-breaking realm. Finally, she was not weaker than others. In addition to being happy, the 4 women's hearts were also filled with a lot of emotions. Actually, with their talents, if they had stayed on Mount Kunliu to cultivate, they wouldn't be any worse off than they were now. During the years of searching for Gong Yangyu, they wandered around without a fixed residence. Not to mention having time to cultivate, they didn't even have time to have a good rest. Now, for them, it was equivalent to returning the years they had lost to them. This was a great comfort to him. Chapter 639. What about Chu-Hen? Has he come out yet? Hua Shui asked. Her bright eyes were in high spirits. Qi Ting shook his head and said, Not yet. He should be out soon. Jishu said. However, after 2 hours had passed, the energy waves emitted by the tower of the mysterious realm gradually calmed down. The faintly distorted tower was like an image formed by refraction of water, illusory and mysterious. What was going on? Everyone in the square was somewhat confused. Generally speaking, people stayed in the mysterious realm for about 3 or 4 days, and there were some who stayed for more than 5 days. But people outside the mysterious realm could judge the state of the people inside according to the changes in the tower of the mysterious realm. At this moment, the tower of the mysterious realm was very calm, which also meant that Chu-Hen's state was relatively comfortable. At least in a short period of time, there was no sign of him leaving the tower. Don't tell me that Chu Hen really went to look for the one-sword flying immortal technique ? Hua Shui's soft cry immediately attracted the attention of many people around. Fu Qin, Ji Shu, and Nongqi looked at each other and saw the astonishment in each other's eyes. Qi Ting and Lu Qi also looked at each other. The former asked, "He knows about the one-sword flying immortal technique ? After all, the two of them had only heard about it from Xiaomiu. Ji Shu nodded. "Yes, we told him before." Qi Ting laughed involuntarily, spread his hands, and shook his head with a smile. With his personality, he will most likely challenge the limit of the highest difficulty. The speaker had no intention, but the listener had other intentions. Upon hearing the 5 words, one sword flying immortal technique, a large portion of the surrounding people revealed a look of contempt at the same time. "Let's go, no need to wait any longer. Looks like there will be another idiot wasting such a good opportunity. Demon Slayer Hall and Void Hall can go back and pack up and prepare to leave. Flying Immortal Hall should stay here and look after the place." Ha 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 ha, that's right. It could be seen that everyone was especially disdainful of the possibility of Chu Hen choosing the one-sword flying immortal technique. The reason was simple. The failure rate was abnormally high. Since ancient times, there had been countless people with extremely high talent in the Flying Immortal Hall who had tried to obtain this martial art. However, they either fell on the way to the profound realm or were unable to pry into the profound mysteries within. In the entire Kunlius sect, there was only one Gong Yangyu. This was an indisputable fact. If I had known this would happen, I wouldn't have told him about the single sword flying immortal technique. "This guy really likes to put on a brave front," Hua Shui said with a little regret. That day, when they told Chu Hen those things, it was only to let him have a rough understanding of the flying immortal mysterious realm, and they did not think too much about it. But he didn't expect her to be so serious. Qi Ting smiled and said, "Let's wait and see. Maybe we guessed wrong." Everyone nodded. After all, no one knew what was going on inside. Instead of making guesses, it was better to wait and see patiently. The mysterious realm of the fairy realm. At the top of the precipitous hanging cliff, a huge rock hanging on the edge of the cliff was like a heavenly eagle looking out into the void. Chu Hen stood on the huge rock like a king overlooking the world. He stood proudly at the top of the peaks and looked down at the magnificent mountains and rivers. Chu Hen placed his hands behind his back and closed his eyes. He breathed in and out, his qi was like gossamer. He released his divine sense and used his heart to feel the rhythm of every trace of energy aura between heaven and earth. Chu Hen's divine sense seemed to wander outside, leaving only a body. It was as still as a rock and looked like a statue. Time passed minute by minute, second by second. There was still no change in this part of heaven and earth. Even the momentum that he had sensed previously had become erratic and difficult to capture. Whoosh! At this moment, a leaf floated over from somewhere. The jade-like leaf had a bit of dry yellow in the middle, but it looked so ordinary. The leaves were like tired butterflies, slowly falling to the ground. However, just as he was about to land on the ground, a sharp aura suddenly rose in the air. Swoosh! An illusory sword aura shot out of nowhere, shattering the leaf into pieces. Buzz! Almost at the same time, Chu Hen suddenly opened his eyes and a huge aura burst out from his body. In an instant, the spiritual energy fluctuation between heaven and earth became extremely restless. A powerful aura swept out from Chu Hen's body and quickly spread out in all directions. Buzz! Along with the trembling space, the stones, grass, branches, water, and dust on the ground actually broke free from gravity and slowly rose into the sky. The chaotic airflow whistled in all directions, and the clouds in the sky surged restlessly. Then Chu Hen stretched out one hand and emitted a momentum that controlled heaven and earth. Boom! In the next second, the various miscellaneous objects that were floating in the air suddenly shot up into the sky. As they moved, stones, water droplets, branches, and even dust, all of them emitted a dazzling light. The light flickered like flowing shadows, and formed a sword aura blade at an extremely fast speed. Heaven and earth seemed to be under Chu Hen's control, and everything could be transformed into sword aura. In an instant, the sky was filled with illusory sword aura surrounding the area around Chu Hen, like a tornado stirring up the sky. Rumble! 3,000 lightning strikes, hurricane whistling. Tens of thousands of sword auras rapidly revolved around Chu Hen, and the scene was magnificent. Controlling the tens of thousands of swords, seizing the power of heaven and earth, and slashing the sky, however, this momentum was so huge that it was difficult for Chu Hen to control. The fierce flying shadows and flowing lights swam around him. Caught off guard, an uncontrollable sword aura swept past Chu Hen's left side, directly cutting a long and narrow wound on his left shoulder. Chu Hen couldn't help but let out a hiss. The sharp pain was exceptionally clear, causing Chu Hen to let out a hissing sound. Immediately after, another 2 rays of sword chi swept past. Unable to dodge in time, Chu Hen's chest and back successively had 2 more bloody marks. Chu Hen frowned, and his eyes revealed a strong sense of caution. The primordial core in his body rotated rapidly, and the powerful true inner force was released. Thousands of strands of light shot out like gossamer threads, and the seemingly solid sword auras were used to stabilize this chaotic and majestic situation. Even so, there were still uncontrollable sword auras that tore Chu Hen's skin and flesh. The rapid and sharp wind was unusually ear-piercing. In the blink of an eye, Chu Hen was already drenched in blood, and many of his wounds were so clear that his bones could be seen. The intense pain made his legs faintly tremble. At this moment, Chu Hen finally understood why the single sword flying immortal technique was so difficult to master. Apart from the intrinsic difficulty of cultivating this martial art, it was also extremely difficult to persist in the process of cultivating the technique. The slightest carelessness would cause one to be smashed to pieces by the sword auras that were flying wantonly. Soon, Chu Hen was covered in blood, and there were countless wounds all over his body. Give up? A sonorous voice rang out in his mind. However, Chu Hen's eyes turned cold, and he shouted sternly, "How can I give up?" Boom! Suddenly, along with a monstrous force that resembled a tsunami, Chu Hen raised his arms high, and the peerless power of the heavens' palms swept out. Chu Hen forcefully endured the endless pain in his body. He commanded the 10,000 sword images to fly straight up, straight into the 9 heavens. The world lost its color and the heavens darkened. Countless sword auras formed from grass, trees, sand, and stones stirred the heavens, moving rapidly in the same direction, and converging to form a river of swords that traversed the sky. The river of swords pierced the sky, and its momentum was like a bright galaxy in the vast night sky. Endless destructive energy filled the world, and the violent wind could topple mountains and overturn the seas. Slash! Chu Hen shouted, and his voice was like a clap of thunder. In an instant, the river of swords that was formed from the convergence of countless sword auras shot up into the sky, and with the momentum of a wild dragon, it swept up endless terrifying momentum and attacked a vast mountain range in front of him. Boom! Bang! The mountains collapsed, the earth cracked, and the rivers were flattened. The super-strong impact was like a giant dragon swooping down, and it penetrated the huge mountain range. The irresistible shockwave crushed the rocks and forests along the way. Smoke and dust soared into the sky, and rocks flew everywhere. A huge natural chasm that traversed the east and the west appeared between heaven and earth. The incomparably huge natural chasm was like a deep gorge, and there was no grass or trees. The river was filled up, and the waterfall flowed backward. Everything in it had been turned into ruins. Outside the mysterious realm, on the flying, immortal peak, rumble, rumble, rumble. Without any warning, the rolling wind and thunder swept across the entire sky above the giant peak. Everyone on the flying immortal peak and Mount Kunlun looked in the direction of the mysterious realm tower with a bewildered expression. Thunder roared from the ninth heaven, and strong winds swept up the clouds. The sky above the mysterious realm tower unexpectedly condensed endless golden holy light, and this holy light pierced through the clouds and the sun, fusing and converging together. Under the eyes of everyone filled with disbelief, it turned into a giant sword that stood under the blue dome of heaven. The giant sword's blade pointed down, and the hilt entered the whirlpool of clouds, like the might of the heavens. That is, looking at the sword's shadow in the sky above the mysterious realm tower, the entire Mount Kunlun was alarmed. Everyone's eyes were wide open, and they were all extremely shocked. This was a scene that had happened decades ago. Elder Mu, who was on the six-pointed star platform, couldn't help but stand up. His brows were tightly knitted, and his throat gently moved as he spat out a few words in a clear and heavy tone. Chapter 640. The Single Sword Flying Celestial Technique? What? My goodness! How's this possible? Whirlpools of clouds rolled in the sky above the flying celestial peak. The entire Mount Kunlun was in an uproar as they stared at the gigantic sword silhouette hovering in the sky. Everyone's eyes were wide open, and their faces were filled with disbelief. This was the first time the younger generation in the Kunlun sect had witnessed such a scene. Their hearts were filled with doubt and shock. On the other hand, many of the more experienced and senior elders were extremely shocked, and they were extremely astonished. He remembered that such a scene had occurred a few tens of years ago. At that time, the person who caused such a commotion was called Gong Yang Yu. Boom! Suddenly, a deafening explosion reverberated in the sky. In an instant, the enormous sword that stood in the sky exploded like firework. Countless bright sword glows fell like a rain of swords. They penetrated the thick clouds in all directions and flew wantonly in the sky. An unparalleled majestic sword aura shrouded the sky above the flying celestial peak. 10,000 swords shocking the heavens, single sword flying celestial. Roar! In the crisis-ridden back mountain area, a high-grade beast king with a huge body covered in iron armor was forcefully torn into two halves by someone, accompanied by a shrill scream. Fresh blood and internal organs splattered in the air. A burly young figure hovered proudly in the air like a demon-slaying god of war. A powerful battle aura shrouded the other party as dark red lights swirled around his arms. He did not look at the Beast King's corpse as he stared coldly at the huge change in the sky above the flying celestial peak. The single sword flying celestial technique. The flying celestial palace finally has a decent person. A sinister smile appeared on the man's face. A sinister sneer appeared on the man's face, and then his eyes turned cold. A raging wind stacked up, and a mad demon seemed to have awakened in his body. A dark red light lingered up and down, and he clenched his right fist. An invisible killing intent caused the surrounding space to faintly distort a bit. On the other side of the mountain, on the pure and clear surface of the lake, an elegant and refined figure, like a lotus flower emerging from the water, quietly stepped on the surface of the lake, floating in the water. Her beautiful eyes, which were like limpid autumn waters, stared at the flying immortal peak with surprise. She lightly pursed her red lips and muttered to herself, "It's actually the solitary sword flying art. Is it the person chosen by Gong Yang Yu? I really want to see it." Mount Kunlun was completely shaken by this. The Hall Master of the Demon Slayer Hall, Wen Liang, and the Hall Master of the Void Hall, Xie Wuhe, were also alarmed. The two Hall Masters stood at the peak of the precipice and looked ahead with complicated expressions. On the viewing platform of another giant peak, Qi Hanyu, the Master of the Flying Fairy Temple, seemed to be in deep thought. Her eyes were filled with emotions and emotions. Once upon a time, when Gong Yangyu comprehended the single sword flying immortal technique, the entire Mount Kunlun was in an uproar. At this moment, it was as if the scene from back then had reappeared in the world. All the senior experts of Mount Kunliu felt a sense of déjà vu. Perhaps I should believe in you, just like before. Chi Hanyu's voice was as soft as a mosquito's buzz as she muttered to herself. Inside the profound realm, sand and rocks swirled in the air, and waves of energy surged into the sky. The remnant sword aura seemed to be telling the story of how terrifying that sword strike was. Mountains and rivers split apart, and waterfalls flowed in reverse. A huge ravine that traversed the east and west appeared in front of Chu-Hen. That sword strike was like a dragon breaking through the sea. Everything in its path was reduced to ruins. Rumble! Soon after, the world spun and the mountains swayed. The mountain range beneath Chu-Hen's feet rapidly cracked open, and countless deep cracks spread across the mountain walls. Soon after, a huge crystal pillar with a majestic aura rose into the air like an iceberg. Ta! Chu-Hen, who was covered in blood, landed on the crystal pillar in a flash. All the meridians in his body opened up, and a wave of pure spiritual energy surged into Chu-Hen's body. A vast amount of crystal source energy flowed into his 8 extraordinary meridians, and he felt as if he was enveloped in a hot spring. The rich spiritual energy contained almost no impurities, and it was directly absorbed and refined by Chu-Hen. What was even more astonishing was that the wounds on Chu-Hen's body instantly stopped bleeding, and they quickly healed at a speed visible to the naked eye. Not only were these specially processed crystals extremely pure, but they also possessed an extremely remarkable healing ability. Immediately, Chu-Hen sat down and wantonly absorbed the energy within the crystal pillar. Time flew by quickly. The wounds on Chu-Hen's body had basically all healed, and even some of the wounds that were so deep that his bones could be seen had only shallow traces left. A huge amount of crystal source energy continuously filled Chu-Hen's sea of qi in his dantian. Suddenly, along with a powerful aura fluctuation, the origin core in his sea of qi shone brilliantly, and a new crack appeared on the origin core. The 8th level of the void-piercing realm. Buzz! Chu-Hen's aura rapidly skyrocketed and became stronger, and the huge crystal pillar beneath him, which was comparable to an iceberg, burst out with a dozen or so dazzling energy light beams. The peerless energy light beams rapidly revolved around Chu-Hen like a spectacular horse lantern. Chu-Hen didn't refuse this huge amount of energy, and he completely absorbed it for his own use. After an unknown amount of time, Chu-Hen's aura once again broke through the limit, and it was accompanied by a powerful airflow that recklessly pervaded the air. The vast true essence spiritual energy was like an erupting volcano. Kacha! The 9th strange crack quietly appeared on the origin core. Flying immortal peak. Compared to a few days ago, the atmosphere at Mount Kunliu was clearly much quieter. 9 days. Chu-Hen had already been in the Tower of Mysterious Realms for a total of 9 days, which was 2 days longer than the previous record of 7 days. Buzz! At this time, the Tower of Mysterious Realms, which had been silent for several days, suddenly released a burst of gorgeous light. Qin, Qi, Shu, Hua, Qi Ting, Lu Qi, and the others, who were guarding outside, were suddenly startled. They took a few steps forward and solemnly stared at the giant tower. Whoosh! A rapid wind-breaking momentum swept through, and then a familiar figure suddenly flashed out of the light curtain, appearing in front of everyone's eyes. "I'm out." The sound was like thunder, shaking all directions. The eyes of everyone present were completely lit up, followed by a burst of loud cheers. "I'm finally out." Elder Mu and the other elders guarding the mysterious realm pagoda heaved a sigh of relief. They had been staying here for 9 days without rest, and it could be said that they were exhausted. This brat really knows how to torment people. Finally, I can remove the mysterious realms. Hugh. Chu-Hen steadily landed on the ground, and a burst of air lifted up the dust and gravel. A transcendent and powerful aura leaked out from between his eyebrows, causing people's hearts to tremble slightly. "You're finally willing to come out." Hua Shui hurriedly greeted and scolded. Fu Qin, Qi Ting, and Ji Shu followed closely behind. Big Brother Chu Hen, have you comprehended the one-sword flying immortal technique? Xiao Miu couldn't help but ask. Although everyone already knew, they still wanted to confirm it with Chu Hen. Their eyes were filled with anticipation. Chu Hen smiled slightly. It should be. Hua. The whole square suddenly burst into an uproar. Besides the shock, the eyes that looked at Chu Hen revealed a lot of envy and praise that had never been seen before. There were even many people who showed a look of worship. Your cultivation has also improved a lot. The one who spoke was Fu Qin. Although she had reached the 8th rank of the void-piercing realm, she still couldn't see through Chu Hen. There was a huge feeling of disparity between them. It was conceivable that the other party's realm was definitely above the 9th rank. Chu Hen smiled. In fact, not only his martial arts cultivation, but also his spiritual power had been greatly improved. He had leaped to the 6th rank of spiritual tattooist. Of course, Chu Hen had refined the street tree of Zhen Danxian, who was a 4th rank spiritual tattooist. The power of the street tree itself was not weak. It was not impossible to reach the level of a 6th rank spiritual tattooist. The mysterious realm of flying immortal is really amazing. Chu Hen exclaimed sincerely. That's for sure. It's the most secret place of our Mount Kunliu. Countless people dream of cultivating in it. Hua Shui said with a little pride, but generally, one can only cultivate in it once. After that, the effect is very poor. It's normal, because after the first time, the various functions of our bodies have become familiar with the power in the mysterious realm. After that, the various senses are not as sensitive as before. Ji Shu explained. Chu Hen nodded his head as he suddenly understood. Of course, even if one could only cultivate in the mysterious realm once, it was enough. At this moment, Elder Mu walked towards the crowd. Chapter 641. Flying Celestial Hall. Under Elder Mu's lead, Chu Hen, Qin, Qi, Shu, Hua, Qi Ting, and Lu Qi entered the Flying Celestial Hall. Hall Master, Elder Mu bowed respectfully to Qi Hanyu, who was seated above the main hall. Following that, Chu Hen and the rest also paid their respects. Qi Hanyu stood up and stood in the hall. Her cold eyes exuded a dignified aura. Her gaze lingered on Chu Hen for a while before she said loudly, "Tomorrow is the day the Heaven and Earth Mystic Yellow Order will be released. Are all of you prepared?" Chu Hen's eyes turned cold as he replied solemnly, "I'm prepared." On the way here, Chu Hen had already told Hua Shui and the others about this matter. The Heaven and Earth Black Yellow Order was about to be released. Nangong Hao of the Demon-Slaying Palace and Lung Lingyan of the Void Palace had already set off 3 days ago. However, because of Chu Hen, the Flying Celestial Hall was still biding their time. However, before this, Chu Hen had already made his preparations and could set off at any time. Do you know what the fight for the Heaven and Earth Mystic Yellow Order means to you? Qi Hanyu's eyes were like torches, revealing traces of power. Chu Hen nodded. He was neither servile nor overbearing. I'm aware. Oh? Aren't you afraid of failure? There's a way to solve failure. Moreover, I have no other choice. Qi Hanyu raised her head slightly and spoke in an indifferent tone. Before this, these 4 girls put in a lot of good words for you. They came to me every day to beg me to give you a chance. And I'm willing to try to believe in you just this once. You won't disappoint them, right? Chu Hen could not help but clench his fist. Naturally, he could hear another layer of meaning in Qi Hanyu's words. She was saying that if Chu Hen took this chance to escape with the blue Ran sword, Qin, Qi, Shu, and Hua would have to bear all the blame. Of course, Mount Kunliu's concern was not without reason. The probability of Chu Hen defeating Nangong Ku and Lung Lingyan was extremely small. Under such circumstances, Chu Hen could seize the opportunity to escape the Eastern Victory State while he was searching for the Heaven and Earth Black Yellow Order. This way, he wouldn't have to worry about Kuan Lu Shan injuring Chu Hen in order to retrieve the blue Ran sword. Therefore, Chi Hanyu intentionally gave Chu Hen a warning that wasn't really a warning. Chu Hen's expression did not change as he calmly said, "Regardless of the outcome, I, Chu Hen, will return to Mount Kunliu." "I believe you," Chi Hanyu replied calmly. She saw a kind of fortitude in the young man in front of her. She believed that Chu Hen would not abandon the four arts. Regardless of whether the Flying Immortal Palace could get the Heaven and Earth Mystic Yellow Order or not, as long as Chu Hen did not escape, Mount Kunliu would not suffer any loss because they could not get back the Blue Ran sword. "Since this is your first time in the Eastern Victory State, and since these four girls have been elsewhere for the past few years, I've arranged for someone to assist you," Chi Hanyu said. Everyone's hearts lit up. Hua Shui couldn't help but ask, "Palace Master, who is it?" "It's me," an extremely imposing voice swept in from outside the palace. Along with a sharp wind-breaking force, a young figure with a steady aura suddenly flashed in the palace. The eyes of Chu Hen and the rest landed on this person. This was a young man with a cold and heroic aura. He was dressed in black and looked like a phantom in the darkness. His eyes, in particular, were extremely sharp, giving people the feeling that they were staring at an eagle. "Senior brother Shan Zhen." Hua Shui couldn't help but exclaim. Fu Qin, Ji Shu and Nongqi also had shocked expressions on their faces. Chu Hen wasn't familiar with this name. However, from the aura that this person emitted, he could tell that this person was not simple. "This is senior brother Shan Zhen, the #1 person in the younger generation of the Flying Immortal Palace," Fu Qin explained to Chu Hen in a low voice. "Senior brother Shan Zhen is very powerful. He can communicate with birds and beasts and understand all the languages of birds. He is also very powerful." Hua Shui chimed in. The few of them spoke one after another and revealed Shan Zhen's background. The #1 person in the Flying Immortal Palace? Chu Hen's heart lit up. He raised his eyebrows and looked surprised. "I am Chu Hen. I hope senior brother Shan Zhen can give me some pointers." However, Shan Zhen didn't seem to buy Chu Hen's goodwill. He responded with an indifferent expression. "To be honest, I don't want to help you. However, I don't want the position of the sect master to fall into the hands of the demon-slaying palace or the Void Palace." Chu Hen wasn't angry. He just smiled. Although this person spoke bluntly, it could be seen that he was quite upright. This kind of person might not be easy to get along with, but he would definitely not stab someone in the back. Immediately, Chi Hanyu, the master of the Flying Immortal Palace, raised her left hand and said, "Shan Zhen will tell you everything about the search for the Heaven and Earth Black Yellow Order. The rest is all up to you." "Yes, master." Everyone's eyes turned cold and they responded with cautious expressions. About an hour later. Screech. Roar! A majestic scarlet-winged black eagle with a wingspan of more than 200 meters soared into the sky. At the same time, a domineering stony evil dragon covered in hard armor followed closely behind and quickly rose into the sky. The team consisting of Chu Hen, Qi Ting, Lu Qi and Qin, Qi Shu and Hua set off. In addition to the newly joined Shan Zhen, there were 2 other talented disciples of the Flying Immortal Palace with powerful cultivations. Their cultivations were at the 9th level of the Void-Piercing Realm and the peak of the 8th level of the Void-Piercing Realm. A total of 10 people acted as the vanguard team of the Flying Immortal Palace. Once the Heaven and Earth Black Yellow Order was issued, the Eastern Victorious State was bound to usher in a reign of terror. All the major sects and forces were bound to move out like dragons. At that time, all the teams would compete. It was hard to imagine how chaotic the situation would be. In this situation, the importance of a team was reflected. This team, headed by Chu Hen and Shan Zhen, had 5 experts at the 8th level of the Void-Piercing Realm, and their combat effectiveness was quite impressive. Among them, Nongqi had a very strong perception and tracking ability, Huashua was responsible for medical treatment, and Jishu was an indispensable spiritual tattooist. Although Qi Ting and Lu Qi's cultivations were relatively weak, their bloodlines were relatively strange, and they could help a lot in many cases. On a certain level, there were no major flaws in this group. Under the complicated gaze of the Kuan Lu sect, the scarlet-winged black eagle and the stony evil dragon gradually disappeared into the sky. The vast sky in the distance seemed to be surging with dark tides, which was the prelude to the coming storm. A huge turbulence, after 1,000 years, swept again. Master, you have done what you should do. At this point, you have done your best. No matter what the outcome is, you will not disappoint Master Gong Yang. At the top of the mountain, Elder Mu whispered to the master of the flying immortal palace in front of him. Chi Hanyu quietly looked at the two fuzzy black spots in the sky, with faint ripples in her eyes. Yes, I have done my best. Chapter 642. Phew, the wind whistled and the clouds were like mist. The red-winged black eagle and the Shi Yan evil dragon flew side by side, passing through layers of clouds, emitting a huge ferocious aura. On the back of the black eagle, Shan Zhen sat quietly. His aura was as steady as a mountain, and he looked like a boulder. The other two geniuses of the flying immortal palace maintained a cautious state. In comparison, Chu Hen and the others on the back of the Shi Yan evil dragon were much more relaxed. This might have something to do with the great improvement in their cultivation after coming out of the mysterious realm of the flying immortal. The victorious East Prefecture was vast and boundless. There were many dangerous places, and there were countless bustling places. However, with the announcement of the Heaven and Earth Black-Yellow Order, the entire victorious East Prefecture was already surging with turbulent undercurrents. Senior brother Shanzhen, where are we going first? Nongqi asked. Shanzhen, who was in meditation, slowly opened his eyes that were as sharp as an eagle's. His lips moved slightly as he replied in a deep voice, Haitian City. 6 days later. The group arrived at a prosperous and bustling city, Haitian City. The city was bustling with people and carriages, and the crowd was like a tide. There were all kinds of people gathered here, and almost everyone was talking about the Heaven and Earth Black-Yellow Order. The Heaven and Earth Black-Yellow Order has been announced for 5 days. Is there any news? I don't know. I heard that many forces have started to head to the central region. It's really chaotic. The victorious East Prefecture became more and more chaotic, as if the entire world was searching for the whereabouts of the Heaven and Earth Black-Yellow Order. Chu Hen and Shan Zhen ordered the red-winged black eagle and the Shi Yan evil dragon to stay in the forest outside the city, and entered the city together. The noise and clamor filled every corner of Haitian City. The arrival of Chu Hen and the others attracted the attention of many people. Especially the few young and beautiful girls in the group, they attracted even more attention. Shanzhen acted as if he didn't see the strange gazes around him. He led Chu Hen and the others all the way to a chamber of commerce called Lin Xiang Pavilion. The attic's decorations were magnificent and sumptuous, giving off an air of luxury. But as soon as he stepped through the door, an extravagant aura assaulted him. The loft could only be described as a foul atmosphere. A large group of people surrounded the gambling table and shouted loudly. Some prostitutes in revealing clothes sat on the thighs of the men, smiling coquettishly. This drenched fragrance pavilion was clearly a gambling den and brothel. Senior brother Shanzhen, why did you bring us to such a place? Hua Shui frowned slightly and looked at him in confusion. Playing the zither, Ji Shu and the other girls were not used to this kind of environment. Danjin didn't explain. Instead, she walked straight to the counter inside, took out a unique card, and handed it to a beautiful young woman inside. The man took the card and glanced at it. Then, a look of respect appeared on his face. Lord Dan, please come upstairs. Danjin's expression was still very cold as she walked straight up the stairs. Although everyone had doubts in their hearts, they still followed Danjin upstairs. Compared to the foul atmosphere downstairs, the environment upstairs was like heaven and earth. The spacious hall was resplendent and decorated neatly. The clean and new carpet and the thick floorboards were very soundproof. Although it was noisy downstairs, no noise could be heard upstairs. "Lord Dan, you're here?" A middle-aged man who looked like a manager walked out from the side of the long corridor and greeted Danjun respectfully. "You're here to look for Lord Dear, right? I'll lead you there now." Danjun nodded. Then, he looked back at Chu Hen and the others behind him and said, "Two of you just need to follow me. The rest of you can wait in the living room." The few of them nodded and looked at each other. Playing the zither, he walked to Chu Hen's side and said, "I'll go." As the leader, Chu Hen naturally had the right to know everything. As for playing the zither, he was very capable in the area of command. Therefore, the two of them would naturally be in charge of everything. Immediately, Danjun, Chu Hen, and playing the zither followed the manager into the depths of the long corridor. The others stayed in the living room. Soon, the few of them arrived at the door of the innermost room. The door was pushed open, and a wisp of refreshing musk wafted over. As the fragrance entered their nostrils, they could not help but feel shocked and refreshed. "Hee, little Danjun, long time no see. What big business have you brought me this time?" As soon as they entered the room, a sneaky laughter was heard. This laughter revealed traces of craftiness, as if it was made by a cunning profiteer who specialized in cheating people. Looking towards the source of the voice, they saw a rather jubilant old man with his legs crossed and his feet propped on a square table in front of him. He was looking in their direction with a smile on his face. Danjun smiled indifferently and swaggered to a guest chair and sat down. The middle-aged manager also invited Chu Hen and playing the zither to take their seat. "This way, please." Then, a young lady with a good figure brought 3 cups of fragrant hot tea. "The 3 of you, please have some tea." When she passed by Chu Hen, she smiled sweetly and her eyes were full of flirtatiousness. Chu Hen nodded slightly and replied indifferently, "Many thanks. These two are very unfamiliar. I have never seen them before. I wonder which hero from Mount Kunliu are they?" The old man called Lord Dear looked at Chu Hen and playing the zither with great interest. His sneaky eyes were like that of a mouse stealing rice. It was very comical. However, under this comical look, there was a frightening viciousness. Danjun did not seem to have any intention of introducing Chu Hen. He gently fanned the teacup and took a sip of the hot tea. Then he said, "Why did I come to find you? You know very well." The old man grinned and scratched his head, revealing a crafty smile. "Name a price," Danjun said. I say, little Danjun, with your Mount Kunliu's intelligence department, can't you find the whereabouts of the Heaven and Earth Mystic Yellow Order? Why do you have to come here to spend this money? Don't you think so?" Hearing this, playing the zither could not help but be startled and immediately came to a realization. Just a moment ago, she did not know the purpose of Danjun's visit. She did not expect it to be to inquire about the Heaven and Earth Mystic Yellow Order. Moreover, from the expression of this old man, he seemed to know about the whereabouts of the Heaven and Earth Mystic Yellow Order. Indeed, the big shots were hidden in the city. Who would have thought that an ordinary casino and brothel would have such capabilities? Compared to playing the zither, Chu Hen was relatively calm. His fingertips gently tapped on the tea table beside him, quietly waiting for Danjun's reply. 10 million high-grade primordial crystal stones. Chapter 643. 10 million high-grade primal crystal stones. Danjun leisurely sipped his hot tea as he calmly stated the number. The crafty old man called Lord Dear chuckled and said, "Little Danjun, although you are my old customer, the people of the entire Eastern Victory Province have gone crazy. Everyone wants the Heaven and Earth Black-Yellow Order. You see, 50 million. Danjun said calmly. Fu Qin's expression changed when he heard that the price had been increased by 5 times in just 2 sentences. Lord Dear's narrowed eyes revealed a sneaky glint. However, he still looked reluctant. "I say, Xiao Dan is really..." In order to get this information about the heaven and earth mystic yellow order, I paid a huge price. Many old customers shouted out a huge price, but I mainly want to cooperate with you. 100 million high-grade primal crystal stones. A cold voice was softly spat out from Danjin's mouth. She gently placed the teacup in her hand on the tea table and stood up. This is my bottom line. If you want to charge me more, I'm sorry, I can only look for third Master Wan. Deal. Lord Deer agreed in an extremely forthright manner. His cunning smile was both comical and disgusting. Fu Qin was not the only one who could not sit still when he heard that the Heaven and Earth Black-Yellow Order was being bought with 100 million high-grade primal crystal stones. Even Chu Hen was shocked. This was only information about the whereabouts of the Heaven and Earth Black-Yellow Order, and not the actual item. At this moment, Chu Hen suddenly realized that he had greatly underestimated the value of the Heaven and Earth Black-Yellow Order. If a piece of information was sold for 100 million high-grade primal crystal stones, then what kind of intense competition would it cause if it was the actual item? It's so refreshing to do business with people from big sects like you. Lord Deer stood up shakily. His narrowed eyes were in high spirit. It was obvious that the other party would definitely not sell this information to Danjin alone. If it was 10 sects, that would be 1 billion. It was hard to imagine how great the profit would be. Let's trade. As Lord Deer spoke, he took out a sealed brocade box and placed it on the table in front of him. He then pushed it forward with his finger. Danjin slightly raised her head. I don't have that many elemental crystals on me. I'll pay you a third of it first, and I'll write you a written receipt for the rest. You can send it over after I'm done, or you can go to Mount Kunliu with the written receipt. Hearing this, Lord Deer placed his palm on the brocade box and said with a smile, little Danjin, it's not a good thing to not bring enough money when you go out. It seems like our deal will have to be delayed. Danjin frowned and replied coldly, Are you afraid that I won't admit it? No. Lord Deer hurriedly waved his hands. Among all the customers who have traded with me, you, Xiao Dan, are the most trustworthy one. However, this matter is very special. No matter who it is, I will only accept a one-time transaction in full. Danjin's eyes turned slightly cold, revealing a hint of sharpness. Little Danjin, don't be angry. The ancient desolation heaven domain is about to begin. Once the Heaven and Earth Black and Yellow Order is announced, it will cause many forces to fight over it. In this battle, many people will lose their lives. If everyone buys from me on credit, then I'll suffer a huge loss. It's business after all. I've never done a losing deal, Old Man Lu laughed like an old fox. He slowly moved the brocade box that he was pressing down on to his side. Once the Heaven and Earth Black and Yellow Order was announced, all the forces would fight for it, and it would definitely set off a bloodbath. In his opinion, the most difficult thing to do was to collect debts from the dead. However, at this moment, a loud bang sounded. Dust flew everywhere and rocks flew everywhere. Along with waves of cold aura, more than 10 masked figures suddenly smashed through the surrounding walls and directly rushed in. 3 of them charged straight at Danjin, Chu Hen, and Fu Qin, brandishing their blades. The rest of them did not say anything and quickly rushed towards Old Man Lu. Hand over the item. A deep voice was filled with ruthlessness. Humph! Danjin's eyes turned cold, and his left hand flew out like lightning. His index and middle fingers were joined together like a sharp arrow. Bang! Along with a muffled sound, a series of blood splattered in the air. The throat of the masked man who rushed towards Danjin was directly pierced by the sharp finger strength. Chu Hen also attacked quickly. His palm strength, which was swallowing and spitting black light, hit on the chest of one of the masked men. The latter felt as if he had been hit by a mountain. His bones were all broken, and his broken internal organs spurted out from his mouth. At the same time, Old Man Lu raised his hand and flipped the table in front of him, smashing it towards the group of masked men. Then, he immediately put the brocade box into his storage ring. Hee little Danjun, it seems that we really can't make a deal today. Go back and get enough money, then find me at the next place. I'll leave these people to you, and I'll give you a discount. I'm going too. After saying that, Old Man Lu leaped and hit the wall behind him. Bang! In an instant, the wall behind him was directly hit, and a hole the size of a window appeared. Bright light and chaotic dust shone in. Behind this hole was the street outside. As soon as Old Man Lu left, the group of masked men immediately targeted Chu Hen and the other two people. Almost without saying a word, they raised their sabers and slashed. However, they had really underestimated Chu Hen and the other two people. In the chaos, they could not even get close to the three people, and were completely killed by one blow. Then, Qi Ting, Lu Qi, Ji Shu, and the others who were alarmed also quickly rushed over. But before they could do anything, the battle was already over. What happened? One of the disciples of the fairy palace, who followed Danjun, asked in a deep voice. Danjun did not explain too much. Her sharp eyes looked at the hole in the wall where Old Man Lu had left, and she said, "I'm afraid this damn old man has been targeted. Chase him." Behind the passage there was a wide street. But this was obviously a secluded street. At first glance it was deserted, and there were only a few people. "Over there," Fu Qin exclaimed and pointed to the entrance of an alley in front of them. When everyone looked over, they were shocked to see Old Man Lu lying on the ground. His eyes were wide open, and there was no light in them. Blood was flowing out of his mouth. Danjun hurriedly rushed forward and pressed her hand on the left side of the man's neck. She then lifted the man's collar and saw a dark red palm print on the man's chest. Killed with one palm. Danjun's face immediately turned cold. Their expressions changed again and again, especially the two genius disciples of the fairy palace. Both of them often went on missions with Danjun, and they had also come into contact with Old Man Lu a few times. They knew that although Old Man Lu looked like an unscrupulous businessman, his cultivation base was so strong that he had one foot in the profound world stage. It was not easy to kill him, let alone kill him with one palm strike. Then, they also discovered that Old Man Lu's storage bracelet had been taken away. Obviously, the other party had come for the news of the Heaven and Earth Black-Yellow Order. "It seems like someone has been lying in ambush here and launched a sneak attack to kill him with one palm strike," Fu Qin said in a deep voice. Chu Hen's eyes turned cold. He looked sideways and said in a deep voice, "Nong Qi, got it?" Nong Qi immediately formed a seal with both of her hands. A gorgeous light pattern flashed between her brows. In less than 3 seconds, along with a slight airwave, Nong Qi opened her beautiful eyes and said with certainty, "About 400 meters to the southwest, there is a cold aura moving quickly towards the outside of the city. The auras of the other people in the city are relatively stable. Chase." Without saying anything further, Chu Hen immediately turned into an afterimage and headed in the southwest direction.